believe in a book that has talking animals, wizards, witches, demons, sticks turning into snakes, and food falling from the sky. People walking on water and all sorts of magical, absurd, primitive stories. And you say that we are the ones that need help. Dan Barker, losing faith in faith. And this is the Godless Rebelution.
Hi.
Hello, Salt Lake. Rest of the world.
Yep. We do have
It's
a
Matt.
special guest tonight, too.
Dan's here. We have a special guest. Tin VanZeben.
Hello.
Do you say VanZeben?
VanZeben is how
VanZeben,
it's
all
pronounced.
Thought I said it wrong. I didn't
Oh,
know.
no, I
It made me
didn't know
nervous.
for
I wasn't
sure. Like, I didn't know if it was VanZeben.
VanZeben.
VanZeben?
Well,
VanZeben.
Don't feel bad because...
What does that
they're-
mean? Like the 7
I
or
have
something?
Yet to figure out what that is because the Van/Von, as it is with German names, means of the
Yeah.
something.
Of
But-
the Zeben.
Well, as
Of
far
the
as I
Zeben.
know, Zeben isn't a word that is easily translated from Dutch. The closest thing that I know is the German word for 7
Yeah.
is Sieben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it has something to do with that, but I'm not actually
It sounds
sure.
magical.
Maybe one of your like
Tim of the Seven.
some
Wow.
great grandmothers had 7 children
7 Dutch samurai.
or something.
I just use Google.
Google is
Oh.
No help?
in that matter. No. Maybe
Have you
Google
tried Bing?
Netherlands.
Have you tried Bing?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, Bing it.
I don't think, from what I've tried with Bing, I wouldn't be very successful finding anything.
Bing is good for an image search.
Really.
Yeah, their image results are pretty
Yeah.
cool. The way
They
it
rate pretty
displays.
nice. Yeah.
As I smack the microphone. Down smash microphone. So, what's going on today?
Well, Pride was awesome.
I had a fantastic time.
Yeah, it was great. There was a shit ton of people there.
Yeah, there was.
It's a Salt Lake City gay pride, by the way, for everybody out there.
Which, like we said last week, is the largest in the nation.
I don't know if
it's
it
one
is,
of the
though.
it's one of the
One of the
largest
largest.
festivals in
Yeah,
the
it's
nation.
large.
It's the largest parade here in Utah.
Yeah,
That
for
is
sure.
Yeah, I had a fantastic time. I was exhausted afterward.
Yeah, I
Me
bet.
too.
Yeah.
And burned a little.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get sunburned?
Can you tell my face? For everybody who can't see, I'm pointing to my face, but
Yeah, this is great radio.
Yeah.
Look at how red Tim is.
I know. But I did get a little bit burned from standing out in the sun, enjoying the parade,
Yes.
participating in the parade with the Atheists of Utah.
Yay!
Yay!
That was a good time. There was a hell of a turnout. There was way more. This is my first one, but there was so many fucking people.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
there
yeah.
was close to 200 floats, I think. So I know when I walked down that line, I hit number like 190 at some point for
Really?
float numbers
that
for
many?
their positions.
Well, the parade itself has a time limit, and they only are what's permitted to take up 2 hours for whatever it is. And they were telling me, the Utah Pride Center is the they in this conversation, that they had to turn people away because they wanted to make sure to get everybody in that 2 hours. So
Oh, wow.
from what I can gather, this has been by far the biggest parade that they've had, but also one that keeps growing year to year.
Oh yeah, it gets bigger every single year.
Exactly.
I think they also said that they had a record number of vendors and booths.
Yeah, they expanded the fairground or their festival grounds from what they had last year into Library Square. And they're actually thinking that the venue is starting to be too small for
Wow.
the event.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know what much they're going to take over besides taking over the entire library
I know.
area.
Well,
Yeah,
it may
they were
have
already
to.
in
may-
a little bit.
It may have to end up at Liberty Park.
Yeah.
I guess like the carnival after the Days of 47 parade, which
Yeah.
is now the second biggest parade in Utah.
Yay!
Yeah.
It may have to end up there, like the Days of 47 does, and they have their carnival after the parade,
Yeah.
and we can have our pride
Yeah, I was gonna say,
after
yeah.
the parade.
How long have you lived in Utah, Tim?
All of my life, with only a small portion of it outside of Utah, but that's negligible.
Okay.
It's something you don't like to talk about.
Well,
Were those the dark days?
No, I don't mind talking about it at all, but it was only 3 years when I was in elementary school,
Oh.
so I don't think that counts.
Where was that?
In Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh. where everything flies, bites, and stings, and it's 120 degrees. Fuck, let's build some things.
I know.
And there's no water. Remember that?
That's right.
I lived there for a couple of years
I
too.
think
yeah.
that's the most important part. Is
I
there's
don't know
no
why you
water,
wanna
but we
retire
want to live
there.
And there's no cold water. I helped a friend move there. Like 7 years ago, and I drove the U-Haul I drove his car. He drove the U-Haul, and so then I stayed there for a few days. We went golfing, whatever. I was freaking out because I couldn't. Sorry, my dog.
It's gonna be a nice sound bite.
We should block.
Like I could hear that.
But I was freaking out because I went to shower and the water on as cold as I could get it. It was one of those knobs where, the more you turn it, the hotter it gets. And turning the knob just so that the water would come out of the tap, the water was hotter than most showers that I take here at home, like using actual hot water. There was no cold water to be found anywhere.
Well, let's be real. In some place like Arizona, it takes electricity to make the water cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all going to the air conditioners at that point.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy, though. I couldn't believe how hot it was. And they found a scorpion in their house for the first time last week.
Happens all the time.
Lizards
We used
is
to make
another
them
thing
fight.
that you'll find everywhere.
He used to make scorpions fight. How do you make...
We would catch them in the desert and throw them into a box with each other. We threw a frog in one with a scorpion once, and we thought frog's gonna get his ass kicked. Frog just plopped on top of the scorpion and laid there. Like, oh, this is not exciting.
You must be
at
talking
all.
about Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how'd they ever train you to kill somebody
By watching the
Well, I
scorpion.
was-
with
I
habits like that?
I was
This was
trained
the
to
training.
rescue. But no, there's a lot more boredom than you think over there.
Nope. There's as much as I think from what it sounds like
I've learned
already.
so many cool things, like the piss tubes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Now the scorpions. You mentioned something last week, I can't. But I
Women
learned all
not
kinds
having
of
any
interesting
rights.
things.
I mean,
Oh yeah. That one's hilarious.
Oh, it was the
Muslims that want to have sex
boy
with
love.
American
Yeah,
women.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah.
Where their women are junk, but ours are prizes.
yeah.
Well, but so my point, though, I was just curious. I mean, as you know, Dan and Ryan and I sit here and do a podcast every week. We really have no authority to speak on gay issues. So I was curious to find out what the LGBT climate is or has been in Utah. What changes you've seen. I know this Pride was spectacular from my vantage point, but it's the first one I've been to. So just to get your perspective.
what you see is pretty much how it's been the entire time I've been to a Pride Festival, which is going on many years now. I can't say, or I don't know officially how many years I've been going, but it's a lot. And the only difference between this year and the last year that I've been going is it's bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So the feeling that you got from going to Pride and the things that you saw at Pride are the same things that have always been in the state of Utah, which I think is the important thing to take away, is that Pride has always been, the people of Utah, maybe more specifically the people of Salt Lake County, have always been very big supporters of equal rights and very big supporters of not ostracizing a community for who they are, pretty much. And that's what Pride celebrates. And you don't have to be gay to go to Pride.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I'm here with 3 people who aren't. To know that that's what the celebration is about. It's, you're different, you're okay. Anybody who's okay, come out and be proud.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the biggest thing I took. I mean, you know, like I said, I've never been there, but I was impressed by the numbers. And it may just be because I live in Utah County. But I mean, it's just simply, it cannot be the case that everybody there was LGBT or, you know,
Right.
members of these minority groups or whatever. There's got to be a lot of straight support, and religious support as well, which kind of surprised me a little bit. Which, by the way, and I've said before, I don't think anyone's either. Well, there may be a very small group of people that are 100% straight and 100% gay, but 99% of everybody else falls on that sliding scale somewhere.
Kinsey scale.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Is that a
Yeah,
thing?
That is a
yeah,
thing.
the
Really?
Kinsey scale.
I didn't know that.
Really?
No.
Oh,
He actually put to numerically where you fall on the scale is how you would identify how heterosexual or homosexual or
Is that
how
online?
flexible you are.
yeah.
Oh shit! I gotta do that.
Yeah, look at the Kinsey scale.
I've estimated
Maybe
it
next
somewhere
week
from
we can do the
15 to
Kinsey
20%,
scale while
but
on air.
that would
Record
be-
all of
that
our
would be-
results.
That would be fuck, dude. We can bring it up right now. Let's do it on this episode.
Well, let's see. I will get the Kinsey scale. You
All right, let's see
continue
if we
speaking.
can, yeah. Let's see if we can get that.
Well,
down.
I can tell you I'm probably, what is it, a number 7, I think? It
Oh,
doesn't
oh,
go from
okay.
like
All
1 to
right.
10, but it,
Oh, so it's similar to like Dawkins'
It's-
atheist
yeah.
scale,
I guess so. Now that I'm not actually familiar with.
and
but
you're a gaytheist.
I'm more familiar with Kinsey than I am with what Dawkins has prescribed to the world. But very much as far as I know, with even in the Atheists of Utah booth, the number of heterosexual supporters outnumbered the homosexual attendees.
Sure, and you're gonna find. I think you're gonna generally find a large amount of
Allies.
allies in the atheist community.
Right.
I think partially because it's another minority group that kind of feels there's a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
But I think on top of that, generally speaking, and this isn't always the case, but for the most part, atheists come to atheism as a matter of critical thinking and reviewing what's right and what's wrong for themselves. And there just is not a legitimate argument for why gay is wrong. When
Right.
you actually think about human values, and when you
Yeah.
if you're getting it handed to you from a 2,000, 3,000-year-old book, then you just don't think about it. You say, "Yeah, well, it's fucking wrong because it says so." But I mean, most atheists think about that, and I think that's
Like,
why you find there's
that
a lot
book
of
is
allies
wrong.
in that.
I mean,
yeah.
I agree with you. I think being atheist and being as a minority group too is same as the LGBT community. You kind of got to stand up for each other in it. And even if I wasn't atheist and I was of religion, I don't think I could still treat people that were gay any
Right.
different.
Well,
Sure.
and that's the big conflict that is being borne out, especially here in Utah, with people who are of a particular faith, realizing. Yeah, I guess I don't need to say it.
Yeah.
It's obvious.
But they realize that being a person is a lot more than maybe what your book has taught you. And they recognize that, they appreciate that, and they're willing to stand up to give voice to the people who maybe don't have the voice to say that.
Some of them. We're seeing an increasing amount in Mormon members, right?
Right. That all comes with a caveat.
Yep.
Being able
Absolutely.
to say that and being able to denounce the reason that has prevented you from saying that your whole life are two different things.
Yeah.
So while I greatly appreciate and welcome the support from people with faith to say that being being gay is okay, I also disagree with still wanting to hold on to the faith that prevented them from saying that their whole lives.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
certain group we're talking about earlier, which I think we've all came to the same
The
agreement.
Mormons building bridges.
Yes, yeah. Building.
Building.
I think
Blowing
it's
up.
building,
I
yeah.
think
I can't even
that's
tell
what
if
it
you're
is.
joking anymore.
Yeah, because I mean, I think we're kind of all in agreement that they're just doing it as a PR issue for themselves and make themselves look like, hey, we accept you, we're okay with you, just don't do it.
It all seems very contrived and
Yeah.
self-serving and masturbatory to me.
It
Yeah.
does, but at the same time, don't underestimate the power that message has to anybody in the LGBTQ community that needs that message.
Oh, right, yeah.
That because we as atheists can climb every rooftop proclaiming you are an okay person, blah 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 blah. But it means more if it hits home. And for a lot of people in Utah, being Mormon is what hits home. So hearing other Mormons say that you're okay, frankly, means a lot more than if we say it.
Right.
I hear that. Let me throw it at you this way though. Let's say next year we get together and put up an Atheists of Utah booth that says, "Hey, you know what? You're all right, even though you're Mormon."
Okay. I'm not opposed to that.
Well, I'm just
I
saying it's got a very different feel when you put it that way, which is actually the
Not
way
just that you're all right, period.
Right.
It's that you're all right even though you're gay.
Right, despite
All right,
despite
even though-
this
yeah.
one fact, right, which is kind of the way I took, and I'm not trying to. I'm just saying how I feel, you know. And of course I'm a straight guy, but at least we'll find out how much. But
So they have a test. The Kinsey scale goes from 0 to 6. 0 being completely heterosexual, 6 being completely homosexual.
okay, so
I did the test initially. I was a 1 on the test.
all right,
So
What
all
do I
you
do?
bears out there.
Well, if you go, you'd have to go forward because I went back to show this is just what the scale is, and then there's a test if you go forward here. I'll work the tablet.
I'm kind of tech tarded.
That's what I was reading it, and I'm like, okay, get to the bottom. Wait, where's the test?
Where's So I'll pull up the test here.
But anyway, so I mean, I'm not trying to trivialize what they're doing because I mean I do get a sense that they're reaching out in a way, you know, where that's basically been vacant from the church for I don't know how long, right?
Well, not
And
even
so-
just the Mormon church, but other churches
Yeah, of course.
across the entire planet are reaching out in ways that they haven't been able to before.
except for maybe like Methodists and Jews and stuff.
I would say Methodists and Jews are probably more ahead of the game than
Sure.
people like Roman
They,
Catholics.
of course, they tend to be far more
evangelical
liberal. Yeah.
Christians.
Of course, yeah, of course. The Baptists,
Islam.
Yeah,
Those
Well,
are generally.
I don't know. They seem to be pretty liberal, progressive.
Islam.
We're talking about Muslims. Right?
Yeah, well, I would lump those, the evangelicals, Catholics, Muslims, all in the same group as not wanting to open up the doors to other members based on historical dogma. Other churches are opening up to it and getting a lot of flack for it. Even the Mormon church within their own ranks get a lot of flack for even just hearing Mormons building bridges. I know that you guys think you've mentioned that perhaps it's a PR thing, but even at this last conference, lots of members of the Quorum of the 12 denounced homosexuality,
Right.
denounced even acceptance of homosexuality.
And this is the high leadership of the Mormon Church.
right.
Mhm.
They've come out wholeheartedly saying, no, this is not something that we support. And for anything that goes against doctrine to begin with, that is their stance. And I don't see them changing at all. Well, maybe not at all. At least not now or for the foreseeable future. I don't see them adjusting much.
Right.
So Ryan took the test. What were your results, Ryan?
I was extremely heterosexual. I guess the military aspect of me, and
Exclusively heterosexual is Ryan.
I'm not surprised, by the way.
I
I'll
have
pass
been,
it off to Matt so he can.
I
take
have
the
been
test.
hit on
All
by
right.
men
Give
before.
me a minute.
That doesn't increase your chances.
No.
The more I get hit on, the more I'm thinking, well, maybe.
I know. See, that may fall into the religious
what?
thinking of gay, that it is influenced and you are persuaded to be gay.
Well, no, actually, I had a friend down in Salt Lake who the first time I met him, and I knew he was gay before I met him, and he came over, and my sister was there with her girlfriend, and I was with my other friends, and they were married, so I was really like the only single guy there. And later on, my mom's like, hey, your sister said one of the people at that party you were at the other night was interested in you. I'm like, ooh, there
One of
was
the
no
married
one
chicks?
there.
What are you talking about?
Then-
That's weird, Mom.
I think you're coming across the age-old issue. Generally, for women, until recently, is that if you're single, it's because you don't want to be involved in a heterosexual relationship.
Well, I guess he had actually asked my sister if I was gay.
Why?
Because I had left. Well, my sister, she was there. He was there. My sister and her girlfriend were there, and they were spending the night, and so was he. And I had left, and he wanted to know if I was gay. I was like, oh,
Okay.
I didn't know I came across that way, but I'm okay with it if you. I'm like, I still hang out with the guy. I'm friends with him, but
Well, I'm sure curiosity killed the cat, so I mean,
Yeah.
inquisitive minds want to know. Essentially,
well, no, I mean, like if I'm in a social atmosphere and
You should be flattered. He found.
Oh yeah, like I got no
attractive
problem. Like
and-
if a guy comes up and hugs me, I got no problem hugging back or put my arm around a guy, and it's like I've got no problem with that. And I don't know if he took that as if I just go up to you and hug you, or
No.
I'm like, or sitting there on a couch
Well,
and just kind of like bullshit with you the whole night. I'm like, I don't know
You
if he
failed
took
the
that
test.
Or I'm a very unusual
You-
person.
How do you
You
fail?
failed the Kinsey test.
This is what I got on the Kinsey test. My result is the test failed to match you to a Kinsey type profile. Either you answered some questions wrong, or you are a very unusual person.
I'd go either way on that. I don't know.
Technically, that's what the Kinsey test is saying, too.
Yeah, thanks for the conclusive details.
You're welcome. I agree with the Kinsey test.
Well, maybe you should retake it.
I'm going to go ahead and say that I did not answer
Did you-
anything wrong.
Did you
should
misread
we-
some of the questions?
Well,
'Cause some
should
of
we
them-
go?
possibly.
Should we do the test out loud and give
Sure.
at least what the questions
All right.
are?
Sure. We'll have Matt do it out loud.
Sure.
And then everybody can decide.
My age is 32. What gender do I identify as? Man. I have never felt sexual desire. True or false? That's false.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I think I'm starting to answer the question.
I cannot decide what sex I'm attracted to more. And that's false.
Kind of sounds like a Mormon questionnaire.
I find the idea of having sex with another man repulsive. That's false. I wouldn't want to die without having experimented sexually with both men and women.
Interesting question.
That's false. Oh, wait. Okay.
Yeah, I kept getting it, like zooming in on the false.
All right, I think I see what I did on that.
What you're mixing up when it says
Did you-
No,
if
no,
you're
no.
man,
I think,
if you're
I
man,
think
woman,
because
if
it
you're a woman.
scrolls and then I push it and it leaves one blank.
Oh, he didn't answer one.
I just saw that, and so I think that's what happened last time. That's okay. We'll keep going.
So it was right when it said that he didn't answer or complete the
That's
test.
Yeah.
that's okay though. We'll keep going because I think people probably want to hear me finish this.
I know I do.
I have no interest in sexual intercourse with anyone, and that's false. The gender composition of an orgy would be irrelevant to my decision to participate.
See, I took that question as is there's not an equal amount of male and female. Like you don't know how many there's going to be of each.
I would say that's generally true.
But I would think that the perceived heterosexual male view would be that there's gotta be more females than there is
Yeah.
males.
I'm just hoping there's at least one.
You're an optimist,
that's-
I would say.
That's probably why you scored the way you did.
Yeah.
Is your orgy half full of women or half empty of
Oh, it would be
women?
ideally full of women.
Yeah. I avoid watching gay pornography, and that's a tricky one.
Well, it says
Like,
'cause-
avoid it, like...
Yeah. Do I like? Yeah, it's weird. Like I don't avoid it,
Well, here's the
It's
weird.
not your preferred, but...
right? But I don't avoid it.
Well, here's
Yeah.
the weird thing for me that I guess haven't really been able to parse in my mind is how do straight men who are even the thought of gay interactions make them sick? How do they even watch straight porn? Because you're going to see another man's
Yeah.
anatomy at some point.
Right.
oh, that's any fire department.
Sure.
That's any fire department? You're going to see a
And-
man's anatomy?
You
Well, yeah,
know,
people
in
just
my
walk-
dream, apparently.
Oh,
Dude, it's
right.
all hoses.
Yeah.
It's all hoses.
It's
man.
all hoses.
But in chain.
I can be sexually attracted to anyone in the right circumstances. That's also complicated.
I put false
That's-
for that one.
That's the point
Well,
of the test.
we already
though.
know what you scored, Ryan.
I put true for that one.
To each his own.
Yeah.
And the point
Yeah,
of the test.
I'll put true on that.
Like, there's some women I'm just not attracted to.
Wait, are you hearing that one right?
Say it again.
That you'd be attracted to any
I can be sexually attracted to anyone. Oh, I see what you're saying.
that like. There's
Oh.
some people I'm just not sexually attracted to, like,
Yeah,
even
at
as
all.
women. Like,
At
I'm
all.
not, I
Right,
have
right,
no
right,
desire.
right.
Except
I don't think
have
that's
sex
what,
with you.
I didn't think that's what they
Oh.
were asking.
Yeah, that's kind of an ambiguous
Yeah,
question.
it is.
I figured it meant someone of either sex. Someone
Right.
someone
I thought you were
that
just
I could,
shutting
that
that
I could,
down, and
that
I'm
I
like,
could
no,
find.
yeah, we know, but
Yeah, I was
no,
taking it
I
as
see
male or female. Like, it's there. I'm like, there's women I would have no desire to
Sure,
have sex with.
absolutely.
I
Sure, yeah.
took it as the person, or the gender you're not primarily attracted to, if you are able to find them attractive
Yeah.
in circumstances.
That's what
how
I
took it.
That's
Yeah,
what I
that's how
thought.
I
Is,
thought.
are there attractive men and women possibly out
But
there?
it said sexually.
Well, yeah.
Isn't this a
Well, I
million
could
question?
see
Well,
someone as being
well, but
attractive,
that-
but I had no sexual desire.
Well, sure.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah, that's
so
really,
it's a little ambiguous.
Yeah, that is.
Like, I have no problem with looking at a guy. I'm like saying that's an attractive dude, but
Sure.
I have no sexual attraction towards him.
Right, which kind of is the point.
Yeah, which is
the
what-
whole-
Yeah.
That's why I took it as
Yeah,
a sexual
okay.
attraction.
I answered that one true.
Yeah,
but
that's what I've got down too. But yeah, I don't.
I guess it
one's
depends
tough,
on.
yeah.
You know, I feel like you're worried about what the outcome is going to be because of this question.
I'm just gonna answer it as the way I.
Dan
the way
put
I,
it and he got a 1. Come on.
Oh no! I'm still gonna answer it the way I thought it was. I just thought it was an interesting. He took it a totally different way.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is I have always been extremely confident in my sexual orientation. That one's true. I find men more attractive than women. That's not true. I would find a threesome with a couple awkward, specifically because of the presence of a man. That's false. I'm only attracted to men. That's false. I'm sexually submissive. That's false.
And the results are.
I'm still unusual.
You're still unusual.
I think that's exactly how I answered it the first time, but
Huh.
And you're sure they all. But the appropriate radio was selected.
If only there were a way to review the answers you had. Anyway,
well, that turned out to be rather anticlimactic. Well, yeah, what's Tim going to get on this?
Okay, now I first have to figure out how to go back to the test. Let's see. Okay.
so I thought it was interesting. You know, apart from the one ambiguous question, it seemed really short. Like I figured
Yeah.
it would be much more detailed. But
Oh,
this is the test from the Kinsey Institute.
I'm a little
Distraught that
like
you got you're
I need
weird.
some closure, man, on that.
Yeah.
You need to know what you are, don't you?
Well,
Well, and you could even just look at the scale and see the different.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
I wonder though if it is also looking for somebody who may be asexual, which might throw the test off in a way. Like maybe if you asked a question that was meant for somebody who was asexual, if you answered it the wrong way, it wouldn't know how to tabulate that for.
Maybe it's just really shitty coding.
Or maybe I'm just unusual.
Maybe Dan should go in there and fix that with his awesome,
it's
beautiful
not,
coding.
It's not entirely impossible that I'm just unusual.
No,
Like, that could
You're a
be
unique little snowflake,
Yeah, that
just
could
like
be
everybody else.
right. Right.
Right?
But
You are unique just like everybody else. That is the one thing we all have in common.
I would say I'm somewhere between 15 and 20% gay, maybe. That's
what you told
what
me.
I say. Yeah.
So on a scale of 0 to 6, that'd make you like 1
2.
or 2.
More fluid than most, I think, but less willing isn't the right word, but less.
Interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my girlfriend will tell you that.
Okay, you don't have to prove anything here, so calm down.
Was that a testosterone issue? Like, I feel like that was the opposite.
I'm not gay. Ask my girlfriend.
That's not what I said. Is that what it sounded like I said?
No.
I mean, half of my
no,
work
Dan.
thinks I'm gay, so as far as they know, I never dated a person in my
You're
life.
who?
I just let them
Wait,
think
you
that.
work at a firehouse,
Yeah.
and half
Who?
of them think you're gay.
Yeah.
There should be more orgies going on, and there should be more stories happening right now.
Calendars.
I just let them think I'm gay because I think it's funny that everybody thinks I'm gay. And
That's
I'm
so
always,
weird. How do they think that? Why?
Because I don't talk about every woman I've ever had sex with, and I don't talk about dating women at work.
You're not like the ultra macho.
No, I keep my
You keep your
personal life private.
personal, yeah.
And I don't talk about it at work, and I don't share it with a lot of guys at work. So a lot of them are like,
Gotcha.
well, he never dates, he's never had sex with a woman before, he must be gay.
Right, well, their ego isn't what determines
you've
your
never had
sexual
sex?
orientation.
Yeah.
According to people at work, that's the way they think.
Yeah.
It should come as no surprise, but I am a number 6, exclusively homosexual.
Well, it looks like we picked the right guest to talk about pride.
What?
we had to do the test.
Could have been
So-
me. You don't know.
The thing
Nobody knows.
The thing that I love about the Pride Festival is just everybody who's there is just fucking happy to be there. Everybody
Yeah.
has a
Yeah.
good time. Everybody is just getting along with everybody else. There's no, I don't know, there's no feeling of animosity anywhere
Right.
with anybody. And you have, even within the gay community, you have a wide range of types of gay people.
Absolutely.
You know, we talked about the Bears last week and you know, the different classifications of gay people. I love that everybody there, whether they were gay or straight, and of course there were tons of straight supporters there. Everybody just gets along and has a great time.
Well, and I'm going to counter, well, maybe not counter, but kind of add to what you're saying, that the majority of the people at Pride aren't gay, which is a big thing I think many people need to realize. The whole point of Pride, while there is a particular reason that there is a Pride and a Pride parade, which we can get into because I'm not sure if many people, I know many gay people don't know the reason behind the Pride parade, and I'd be more than willing to go into that. But the point of Pride as it stands today is not necessarily being gay. It's about being somebody who's felt like they are different from the culture that they come from. And there are a lot of people like that in Utah.
Right.
So it's no surprise that it's become the largest parade in Utah and the largest festival in Utah.
That's a great point.
And I'm sure there are people listening who don't know the purpose of a Pride parade and festival and everything.
Right.
So please enlighten them.
Well, I'm sure everybody's heard of Stonewall and what happened in the 60s at the Stonewall Bar. That pretty much being gay was a subversive action and was illegal. So the police raided this particular bar they raided this particular bar and a big brawl ensued. And a lot of people were arrested. A lot of people were sent to hospital. But after that, in dealing with the aftermath of that, some what I would say, very, very brave people decided to stand up and say, this needs to stop. This isn't happening just in our tiny section of Manhattan, which everybody assumes is the bastion of liberal thinking. If it's not happening, or if this is happening in the bastion of liberal thinking, how is it happening everywhere else across the country? And they decided, I believe it was a week, maybe it was in June. That's all I can say. And that's the most important thing to say, is that it was in June, probably a week or the exact weekend that this raid happened on Stonewall, where they decided they were going to take signs, rainbow flags. They were going to hold hands with their same-sex partners and march up the street to Central Park and declare to one and all that this does happen in New York City. This does happen in the United States. And that's exactly what they did. I can't remember exactly what streets they started at, but I do know it ended at the park, and it started in downtown Manhattan. And a few gay people started marching towards Central Park. And they got to Central Park, and the parade of supporters, the parade of actual gay people was bigger than how it would than when it had started.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's
so people just joining as they were marching,
showing support, and people being okay, not being afraid of what was going to happen to them. And they made it to the park. They made it to the park, and they had a celebration afterwards. And that's the beginning of Pride. And that's what it means to be proud, not only as somebody who is gay, but as somebody who may be atheist and not sure how they're being receptive. Is you're not the only one. We're going to prove it by doing something that nobody would expect, and it's going to work out just fine. Mm-hmm. It worked out just fine, and it's been working out just fine since then. And it's going to continue working out just fine and continue to become even bigger than how it started. And I think that's what, gets lost in the discussion over Pride, especially from the straight community, the religious community, who views Pride as, just an excuse for naked men to dance around on floats.
I'd actually had that, not with this whole story about the first march, but I had a guy at work that saw me tagged in a photo on Facebook of me sitting in the booth at the Atheist of Utah booth, and he's like, "What's this shit? Fucking atheists sitting at the gay pride stuff?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "What are atheists doing at gay pride? Why are you even at gay pride?" I'm like, "Are you serious, dude?"
Gays don't own gay pride.
I'm like, "No, my gay pride isn't all about gay people." He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "No, there's tons of groups there showing support.
Right.
Yeah. Groups that are minorities that want to speak up and say, hey, listen, we're not going to just sit here and let you walk over us." And I'm like, it's a big thing. It's not just the LGBT community, even though they're a big part of it, they're the one that started it. More people have joined in and taken part and shown, hey, we're with you in this, and guess what? We're also a minority group, and we stand with you.
Right, and that's what I want everybody to take from it. Although now it has become this event where if you are different, celebrate it. And clearly, there are a lot of people in Utah that are different than what is prescribed them to be, which would add, I think, Matt, to why you were surprised that it was bigger than what you'd expect. It's not just about being gay, but at the same time, I don't want to underestimate the impact and the value where Pride originated from. That it did take a couple people in the 60s to say that we're not going to stand for this. We're not going to legally be different than everybody else. That fight continues today, and it will continue fighting on until there are equal rights for everybody.
And that's a strong message to all my brothers and sisters who scored an unusual on the Kinsey test.
I mean, I personally love it. I love it that it's downtown Salt Lake, just a few blocks from the Mormon temple on a Sunday. And I'm kind of always like, I'm like, this is just a way of shoving it down your throat, going, you are not the only ones in the state.
Yeah.
You are not the people
they
who
still managed to get a shit ton of press because they had their little fucking building bridges.
Oh, the building bridges, and they played. They had rainbows on the Mormon temple at night, and God did it.
Coincidental. I don't think that was a planned thing, or if it was a subversive thing from somebody at
like, oh, this will be
good.
Well,
no.
Mr. Burns cowering in the corner.
I think
sure about that.
I think that Mormons building bridges gets they get focus because everybody, like you just said, assume since it's on a Sunday. So the immediate thing for Mormons building bridges is they left church to be here for this.
Yeah.
Which they probably did.
Yeah.
So what does that say to everybody?
Well, that's the sacrifice, right? That's
Right.
what they've put into this movement. That's
it's
what they've
just about
lost.
the least they could do.
Yeah.
Tim is wincing as I'm saying this.
Well, no, because it is the least they can do, but I don't want to underestimate that the least they can do is probably the most somebody needs to hear in order to feel accepted.
Maybe I'm being unfair.
And that's what, because a lot of people, especially from Mormonism, a lot of gay people from Mormonism, they're at the end of their ropes. Sure. Because all that they get from the pulpit from home is that you are not normal and you need to change. And whatever choices you feel are most appropriate for you are not the one that God means for you.
That's the mindset I hope changes the most when people say.
Well, yeah, and I know like 40% of homeless teens in Salt Lake City are homosexuals.
Yes.
Right, and I hope that, and I know...
Kicked out by their Mormon parents, sorry, by the way.
I know that there will be a time where we don't have to say Mormons building bridges, because we'll know that the true message is, I'm sorry my religion taught you that you were a bad person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what Mormons building bridges essentially is trying to do.
Okay, fair enough. I accept that. That was well said, Tim. Good job. You changed my mind on that. I think because it makes me think back to all the civil rights movements and when the majorities in power have said, they've coined all the they've used the same term, bad, for all the different movements that have come up. Sinful, whatever. Yeah, but I mean,
against God,
right? Whether it was African Americans or women or gays or atheists or whatever that minority group is that's saying, hey, just treat us equally. They've always been, or the poor. That's another one. Anybody that's not rich, old, white, Christian male, right? Who has been in power for far too fucking long.
As God intended.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right.
Well, I mean, is that not what we're saying? If we say
absolutely,
this is a Christian nation,
I guess.
Well, that's absolutely it.
I guess I can see that there may be some value in having Mormons building bridges. I almost said burning again. I can see some value in having Mormons building bridges around as at least something to point to for other LDS members to point to and say, well, maybe it is okay if I'm accepting of somebody who's gay. I may not agree with any sexual acts that they may choose to do, or who they may choose to live their life with, but it's okay to at least be accepting with them. I guess I can see some value in that being, a tiny little stepping stone to a wider acceptance. My problem with Mormons, it's almost automatic.
You've done it so many times.
With Mormons building bridges is that they stifle a lot of the people who are even in that group and would choose to be more progressive. They tell them, no, you can't do that. They say, no, we don't want any kind of talk about marriage equality. We don't want to talk about, somebody actually, expressing themselves sexually if they're homosexual. We don't want any kind of that talk. We just want to tell people that we love them. Yeah, fine, good. But to me, that's where I say that it seems a masturbatory, self-serving exercise.
Right, which is essentially the problem with Mormons building bridges, is that they're not actually building bridges. They're seeking a Band-Aid for the issue at large.
Right.
The unwillingness to accept equality among differing viewpoints. And I completely agree with that. And I completely agree that that's something that we obviously here are working to fight against.
Yeah.
Not necessarily fight against, but we're looking to tear down the attitudes of the people who think that that's not something that should be appropriate in our society. The only thing I'm going to say against that, though, is how hard was it for any of us to come out as atheist in your own life?
It wasn't too difficult for me. I mean, I think most of my family had a pretty decent idea.
Yeah.
But I know that, there are members of our group who, even as members in our group, are still closeted atheists.
And yeah, so take the example, take the similarity between the two. As difficult as maybe you think it is currently, or it was in the past, is the exact same way that any gay Mormon feels now. Mm-hmm. And how easy would it have been for you to come out and to accept what you believe if somebody else on the other side was cheering you on?
I think it would have been even more easy if that group that was cheering me on was fully accepting and was all about full equality, not just, we love you.
I agree.
Right. Even though you're gay, we love you.
I agree.
Yeah. And that's my problem with.
That's why we're here now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's and I mean that's a big part of why Atheists of Utah exists and why we are vocal and try to cause a stir and get people to know that we are here and we're okay. We're good people. We contribute to the community. We do a lot of good works. It's not just a bunch of fedora wearing douchebags sitting around thinking that we're smarter than everybody else.
Yeah. Like I know at the Pride booth, a lot of people seem surprised when you tell them like, oh yeah, we volunteer at these organizations, we donate food, we help out at Planned Parenthood, we do highway cleanups, we got quarterly parties and all that kind of stuff. Like,
you guys do all of that?
Really? Mm-hmm. Like I thought you're just atheist.
No. Yeah, and I never wanted, or I don't even still think that my being gay is an issue in the group because it's not. I've never had to think twice about it. And the reason I'm in the group is more for other reasons separate from this other thing that happens to be a part of my life.
Yeah.
And I embrace that. And I look forward to the day where people don't have to think about being gay as a negative and whatnot.
Well, and when we were at the Provo Pride Festival last year, we had, and I mentioned it last week, we had this group of Christians who were roaming through the Pride Festival down there. And,
a roving band.
Yeah, a roving band of Christians thumping their Bibles loudly.
Right.
And they stopped at the booth, and, at first I had no idea that they were this Christian group because they went in very incognito, and they even lied to the festival organizers. That there were a few of them that they were like, hey, the organizers were like, hey, you can't be proselytizing to people here. We see you've got this big group, and they were like, oh no, we're not in a group. We don't have a group of people here. This is just me. This is just me walking around talking to people. And that was bullshit because then you see them a half an hour later all congregated under one tree basically
Right.
going over the different things that they'd been doing and discussing.
Birds of a feather.
Right. But anyway, so they stopped by the booth, and the leading question from one of the guys was, what does atheism have to do with being gay or with a pride festival? And immediately I said, well, gays and atheists are natural allies. We're a minority group who is ostracized by a religious majority.
Absolutely.
Really, the only argument that can be made against homosexuality is a religious argument these days.
Right.
There are no
Not these days, ever.
right ever. Sorry,
Yeah.
ever. I mean, it's the one that you can't disprove scientifically. It used to be the case that they would say that being gay led to a whole bunch of really bad things.
Child
that
rape.
Yeah, that you couldn't be a moral person. You couldn't rear children. You couldn't be a quote unquote normal heterosexual
a contributing person in society.
Right.
I've heard that many
And
times.
so there were all of these different things that used to float around, and different reasons why people would say that they were against anybody who was homosexual. And really, it's been whittled down to the only argument you can make against homosexuality is a religious argument now. And so we're natural allies in that we're seeking acceptance from everybody, including religious people, to let them know that they can't walk on atheists or gay people anymore. They need to stop being dicks.
Right, because not having a religion does not make you a bad person.
Right. And not being gay does not make you, or
does not
being
make you a
gay
good
does not
person.
make you
Or
a bad
bad.
person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So maybe just to kind of tie up the loose ends on this subject. So we've got Tim and Dan here together. What kind of collaborative? What's funny about that?
I'm just wondering where this is going.
Okay, well,
too.
let me talk. What kind of collaborative effort can you see to improve conditions for the LGBTQ community and the atheist community moving forward in such a religious state?
Well, first of all, are you kidding? The turnout for the Atheists of Utah at the Gay Pride Festival already has been phenomenal. And the fact that so many of the people who turned out are not actually gay themselves is even more phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they're willing to put themselves out there, not only as atheists, which is hard enough, but as,
Got a loose dog.
Sexually unusual.
in Matt's case, yes, but as allies of people who are also have felt the ostracization from the community. That alone suggests a deeper relationship than I don't know many atheists think about. As Dan was saying, that the gay community and the atheist community have a lot in common. I don't know how many people have thought about that, and I think, more importantly, I don't know how many people care about that. Because what matters most when it comes to our political goals is the same thing. We want equality. We don't want Christian values, if that's so what the majority population thinks that they can push upon us. We don't want those values pushed on us in any way if it's not supported in reality.
Yeah.
And I know me and Matt actually walked around and we did some interviews with people, and that video is actually up on the Atheists of Utah YouTube page, talking to some really great organizations that were there to Pride Fest.
Yep.
I even think just that little bit of walking around and talking to those people in those groups might have actually helped bring some ties together a little bit, because they seemed like they were appreciative of us wanting to come and interview them. And I've sent them the videos on Facebook, and I've gotten responses back from them saying, "Hey, thank you very much. This is really cool. Thanks for what you're doing and stuff."
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Go check it out if you've got a couple of minutes. It's just a quick little. We interviewed a couple of different groups that were promoting some equal rights stuff. It's on the YouTube page.
And if you got the means to, some of these, you could help donate to.
Donate.
Well, the very first group up,
Restore Our Humanity.
Restore Our
Right.
Humanity. They're the ones that had Amendment 3 in Utah taken down, and they are right now trying to pay back the lawyers for all the work they
Who
did to try to get
fantastic work.
Yes,
payback and are still paying for it.
Yes.
While Utah has
And this was striking down the ban
on gay marriage in Utah.
Gay marriage in Utah.
The Amendment 3.
and
yeah.
while Utah enjoys the taxpayer money that they have to fight the court's decision that this is unconstitutional, Restore Our Humanity and the Derek v. Kitchen or the Kitchen v. Herbert.
Yeah, Herbert versus
Excuse
Kitchen.
me.
Yeah.
Lawsuit. They don't have that right.
No.
They don't have.
They don't have that luxury.
No, they don't.
The luxury, exactly, of.
They have a $700,000 bill they're trying to pay back right now from those lawsuits.
Yeah, and everyone
And the
knows
Ut-
that Utah State's not
Yeah.
spending that tax money
The
on
state
schools.
of Utah blinks their eye and spends $3 million to try and get it repealed.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And
Yep.
continues to fight it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's a worthwhile cause. So, we just went around and tried to help them get their message out. So if you can, just take a quick look and support what you can. But anyway, go ahead, Ryan.
And
Sorry.
their websites are linked right on that YouTube page, right at the bottom in the About section. You can find the links to all their pages. There's some good groups. Just give it a listen, give it a watch, give them some support, and help them out because
Yeah, and
they really
Restore-
are doing good stuff.
Yeah, Restore Our Humanity is also having a family carnival this Saturday. You can find the information about that on their website. It's restoreourhumanity.org. You can find information about their carnival. You should go out and support them in that.
Really.
Yep. Dan, so what do you think about the collaboration? What can we do in the future to?
I would like to see a lot of the same things we're doing continue.
I agree.
It would be great. Something that I was disappointed in for the last 3 years, actually, is that as part of the Pride Festival and everything leading up to the parade and festival, is an interfaith service, and Atheists of Utah has never been included in that, and that. And I can kind of understand why, because we're not really, we're not a religion,
Yeah.
we're not a faith.
We're not a faith.
But at the same time, it would be great to be able to get our message out to those in the LGBT community who aren't aware that we're even around and existent or there to support them.
So I'm wondering if you know that there are official interfaith celebrations before Pride.
Yes, yeah. Well, and that's what I mean is
Right.
that I know that these exist, and Atheists of Utah has never been invited to those.
Have we asked?
No, honestly. I mean, and maybe that's something that we ought to do.
Because I know, well, just personally speaking, and anecdotal evidence is never
No, go
accepted
ahead, yeah.
officially, but just from my own experience, I know some people who participate in those, who are of faith, who are supportive of not only myself and the Pride movement, but of myself as somebody who does not have a faith in God or whatever, ... So I know that they're out there, and I wonder if it just takes a little more reaching out.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think we could do a better job at reaching out and contacting the people at the Pride Center to say, hey, we'd like to be included also. We would like to be more supportive, give you a broader base of support and do whatever we can to help. It could just be that it hasn't even occurred to them to invite us. I mean,
Right. Most likely,
Right.
it never even occurred.
Yeah. So, see, my silly little question turned out to be rather constructive after all. I might think.
What
It was
else
an
do you
excellent
have?
Shall we hit
So,
some news items, or you got
Maybe
something,
the
Ryan?
problem is that you weren't filled with the Holy Spirit.
Could be.
I think
Like
Dan,
the man
Dan
in
probably was
Washington
not.
State who got pulled over and said he
what?
was not drunk, yet filled with the Holy Spirit.
Dude, he got a segue in after
Whoa.
all. After I trounced that thing last week.
The Holy Spirits.
So a 28-year-old man in Tacoma, Washington, told the police as he was pulled over that all they would find in his blood is heavenly stimulants in his system that are after his arrest for drunk driving. But before he got arrested for drunk driving, apparently he went to a gas station.
Heavenly stimulants?
Heavenly stimulants.
So like Merry Christmas?
Oh, excellent. That was a good one.
This is the Godless Rebelution puncast.
But apparently, after arriving at a gas station, Stanley allegedly put 2 packages of donuts in the countertop and yelled at the clerk, "Hey, I need gas, and I have no money." So the clerk locked him out.
Jesus, take
So
the wheel.
wait. So the clerk what?
Locked him out.
Oh, okay.
Then he got arrested.
I'm gonna
and
get these donuts
after he
and
had
gas,
wrecked his
and I
vehicle.
don't have any money.
So he crashed his car, went to the gas station, gave the clerk a bunch of donuts, told him he had no money, he wanted some freaking gas. Then he got locked out and then arrested until the cops said he was filled with the heavenly spirit, not alcohol.
Wait, did he get the donuts at the store and put them on the counter? Like he
That
wanted
it
to buy
didn't
them,
say.
or-
It just I wonder if they
or
were just
like he
old
had
stale
some
donuts in the
his
back of his car.
Yeah.
It would
Or
have
he
been
just
funnier.
took them and said,
I think it would have been funnier
How
if he
much
got
gas
pulled over
can I
and gave
get
them
for
to the
this
cops.
dozen donuts?
After he takes them off the shelf.
Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donut?
It's Homer of the future whose only currency is donuts.
Yeah.
Well, that was a short, quick
So
little
what
one right there.
Is there a? I mean, is that all that we know?
That's all. It was just a little quick one-page thing.
Yeah, that is bizarre.
Where he basically told the cops that pull my blood because all you will find are heavenly stimulants in my system.
I think more importantly,
It's so weird.
more importantly with these stories that seem ridiculous to anybody who doesn't know, this makes total sense to me. Because one of the things that evangelical Christians teach is for you to be drunk with the Spirit. And isn't that so much fun?
Well played, sir.
Some people take it more literally than others, apparently.
Yes. So were these powdered donuts?
They didn't specify because if they were cream-filled donuts, obviously those are worth more.
Well, no, I
Donut
was thinking.
holes are worth a little less.
I was thinking he was doing lines of powdered.
The holes may be a little bit more. It is the
Those
body.
aren't any ordinary sprinkles.
Consume it. No, but seriously, being drunk in the Spirit is something that I am more than familiar with.
Is that a Pentecostal thing or what?
Oh yeah, what religion did you grow up with?
But I didn't grow up with one.
Okay.
It was in my early teen years that my mother decided that we were going to be born again Christians,
Oh, that's right.
which I don't.
Do
Code
you know what
word.
led to this?
Code word evangelical. Apparently, it is something that my mom always believed in, but we never had to do. I remember only going to church once in my life before ever having to go to church again when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
So I'm not exactly sure what led to it. But nonetheless, as part of an evangelical / Pentecostal belief, because the Pentecostals' evangelicism is based sort of on a Pentecostal idea. We can get into that later, but I'm not sure if you want to. But anyway, the whole idea is getting drunk with the Spirit is as it would be with getting drunk literally. You want to take in so
Feel all
much.
fuzzy.
Yeah, you want to take in so much, air quotes, God, that it makes you crazy. And that's when people start speaking in tongues. And that's when people start falling back and everything because they are filled with the Spirit. They are drunk with God. And that literally means, literally, what do you think? Literally, it says. They literally think that they are literally
Tim,
drunk with God.
Tim, are they literally talking
You're
about
not speaking
Literally.
figuratively
I think you're
here.
using literally a little too
Literally,
hyperbolically.
they think they're drunk with God. That's why this story doesn't surprise me in the least, because it doesn't matter what sort of booze he was on. He was on God.
He was doing
Yeah.
shots of Jesus Meister.
He was
Well,
on
anyways,
God.
after they pulled this guy's blood, he was charged with driving under the influence, hit and run, attempted robbery, and driving with a suspended license.
Cheers, cheers. Being Christian does not mean
No.
you are exempt from laws at all.
I wonder if his argument in court is they are going against my religious freedom.
Oh, yeah. Interesting, because he did plead that. Well, we'll see.
Well, that seems to be the
Go-to argument.
du jour.
Yeah, the de jour.
The
Very
go-to
nice.
argument du jour.
Yeah.
Nice.
I can believe
The
whatever
argument
I
du jour.
want, and you questioning my beliefs makes you intolerant.
Yeah, because that's the only thing over the last, half or full century that's really been sort of given special treatment.
I mean, because I know me as a firefighter. If I were to go on scene,
I know you
that
as
I
a
were called
firefighter, too.
and I were to say I do not believe that my religious convictions will allow me to do this, I would get fired. I mean, I don't know what happened to a cop if he did something
Speaking
like
of not
that.
doing your job, as it,
I mean, I
Man.
couldn't imagine a
speaking
police
of not
officer
doing your
saying,
job as a public servant,
Is your last name Segway? Or is that your middle?
Or did you fall off a cliff? Sorry.
well, now I'm just hoping that I've got the same story in mind.
Yes,
I'm
you do.
sure you do. Utah cop defamed, quote, defamed by gay pride parade conflict.
The horror!
Was that a OR or just a horror?
The horror.
The horror.
Hors d'oeuvres?
Hors d'oeuvres, yeah.
The horror.
Oh, the humanity.
Okay.
Or lack thereof, as
Droopy
it
dog?
would
Is that
seem.
what was that?
Oh, the humanity.
A Salt Lake City police officer says the department defamed him and violated his rights when he was put on leave after a conflict over his assignment at Sunday's Utah Pride Parade. This was paid leave, by the way. I just want to say that. So no real punishment at all. Quote, he feels that the same protections that afford individuals to participate in a parade like we had Sunday are the very constitutional protections that were not afforded to him, Brett Rawson, the officer's attorney, said. What rights are those?
Well, I think the first thing that I initially took when this part of the story came out was the words attorney.
Sure.
Yeah.
This does not sound like something this gentleman would say, but as soon as somebody saw maybe a incident was brewing, they jumped right on that.
Well, no, now, yeah,
Lawyered up.
he has lawyered up.
Yeah.
He's now suing for defamation, as I just said, for not assuming his civic duty.
Now, who is he suing for defamation? Is it the actual Salt Lake County Police Department, the newspapers, or is it list who he's suing for defamation?
Let me continue to read and see if that. The police department and Rawson, this guy's attorney, have not identified the officer who made national news last week when the department told the Salt Lake Tribune he had been put on leave for refusing to work an assignment at the annual Gay Pride Parade.
So he hasn't even been identified.
I don't think he needs to be.
Yeah, they're not identifying
we just
him.
agree
and
that this person doesn't need to be isolated.
Well, how is he
and
defamed
if no one knows
he's
who
never
he
been
is?
identified?
Yeah.
That's the kick. And that's what I don't understand about this whole conflict at all. Because any of the news articles before this, the police department never mentioned him by name.
Oh, no.
All the police department ever said was he refused to do his duty. And there's nothing in this lawsuit that says he didn't refuse to do his duty. It says he did not agree with what he was
assigned.
assigned to do.
Like, it gets better.
So
It does. It gets better.
This makes me mad. So if he's called to the scene of a crime where someone who is gay has had the shit beat out of him, is he not going to help them at all? Fuck that guy.
Good question.
Fuck that guy. Well, and so because last week, if you listen to the podcast, I really had no response to Dan's I highlight every single line. Well, it just so happened that week that he decided to notice my notes.
I don't think that was his criticism. It's that you still weren't able to accurately.
Oh wow! So two criticisms on the same. All right, thank you, Tim.
All
We're
right.
glad to have you. And
I just want to say, Dan, I have your back.
Thank you very much.
oh man, but I'm sexually unusual.
That's your problem.
So, and my girlfriend's. Then it says, quote, the officer simply felt that the level of participation required in the event could be perceived as endorsing or advocating in favor of LGBTQ community, a position which made him uncomfortable given his personal and religious beliefs. And that is the point, after a page and a half of reading this, where I said, okay, there it is.
Question to everybody.
Sorry. Religious bigotry is not a constitutionally protected right.
Right.
But question to everybody. What is the first thing you think of when you see police at any event?
They're doing their job.
Is it, oh, they obviously support what's going on?
No.
Or is it,
no.
there's got to be police
no.
here?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people here that are going to be thinking a whole bunch of different things, and they're here to keep the peace.
Because the parade started off with the police on their motorcycles, which I have videotape of, which is apparently is a rare thing right now.
Clearing the path
Yes.
for the parade,
'Cause
which is their duty.
Those roads were open for the first, up until 10 minutes before the parade started. All those roads were open that the parade was going to go down. So when the parade started, those motorcycles went all the way down the entire route, closed all the roads, and then the fire department came through, and then the parade started.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you very much, everybody else at the SLCPD.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and fire department as well.
Yeah.
Where there was absolutely no issues.
Which
No,
the spokesperson
whatsoever.
of the police department has made no qualms in saying, well, we support what is going on. The chief of
True.
police supports the gay community. And
He's a
whether
pretty good dude.
Well,
Yeah.
and the spokeswoman for the Salt Lake Police Department.
right,
Mm-hmm.
they say wholeheartedly, we support the gay community, which I don't think anybody should think less of, because yes, they do. What's at issue here is, what do we think is appropriate get out of jail free card, as it were, for anybody who has religious objections?
I don't think you should have a get out of, if you work in a position where you are required to serve everyone, no matter race, color, creed, sexual
Yeah.
preference, religious preference, whatever you are, you should not be able to go, well, guess I don't really feel comfortable with this weekend, so I'm not going to go do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Would
And you
do that
have
in
had-
your own duty?
No.
Yeah,
I
and you've
can't.
had many experiences at having those kinds of battles personally.
If
right?
I go to a call to a church, I'm an atheist. I can't go, well, I'm not going to go put that fire out in that church because
Yeah.
I don't really
Let
like
that
churches.
fucker
and you
burn.
know what? And you know what? And they never
Pray
fucking-
for God to put out the
and
flames,
they
motherfucker.
never. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I wish I could say that, but I'm not allowed to.
Right. And they never fucking notice that.
Yeah.
They never give you credit for that shit.
I mean, even as doctors have the Hippocratic Oath,
Yes.
which basically says you do no harm. That's your sole job.
Point of order here, doctors do not have to take an oath. The doctor oath is just something that's voluntary, and
Yeah.
a lot of countries outside of the United States don't
Okay.
have an oath.
Well,
I
it's
just
outside
want
of it.
to say, I know it's a downer, everybody.
It is.
I'm sorry.
Well, the Hippocratic Oath comes from an actual doctor that had the name
Hippocrates.
Yeah,
In
who
Greece,
basically
yeah.
had the one rule of do no harm to
Do no
everyone.
harm.
And
Right.
that's what the Hippocratic Oath is. And I
First,
think
do no
any
harm,
doctor,
right.
yeah. First,
Except
do
doctors
no harm.
aren't bound by that oath, which I think
No.
is the
Well,
difference. Hold on. I think that's the
Wow. Dude. Go ahead.
I'm just saying I don't want a whole lot of chatter going on behind what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Doctors aren't bound legally by the Hippocratic Oath. They take the oath because it's a good thing for them to say publicly that, of course, the reason that they're doctors is to heal other people.
Yes.
Whereas
Yeah,
somebody in a public safety situation is bound by law to
Yes.
not have personal conflict come into matter at all with their decision making. And this is clearly an example of somebody whose personal convictions has affected their ability to do their job.
Which means that
Yeah.
they have just disqualified themselves for the position.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the issue. That's the whole problem with this whole
Yeah.
situation.
It's not that as a public servant he's not allowed to have personal opinion. It's just that once he gets on duty, his personal beliefs and his
Out the door.
has
Right.
to stay at home.
Right. And he's since resigned, right?
Yes.
Like he resigned yesterday, I want to say.
I think so, and I think in the resignation, his name still didn't come out.
Yeah. The spokeswoman for the Salt Lake Police Department, though, she told the Tribune that
Bless her heart.
the vast majority of officers, when they come to work, understand that they leave their personal opinions at home and serve the community. She said, "We have gay men and women that serve the police department." So
Yeah.
that was sort of a nice ending. You know, I wish it wouldn't have been a resignation, and I wish it would have been just a straight up
Shit
firing.
canning. Yeah.
You know,
Right, but I think a lot of people don't understand what it actually means. Was this person being forced to participate in the parade? And from a previous article that I read, how it works with the police department is they put up sign-up sheets. And any officer that wants to sign up for a particular event, like the Pride Parade, like the Days of 47 Parade, can sign up to be a part of it. And when there is not enough sign-up-ees, as it
Yeah,
were,
when there aren't enough volunteers, then they assign people.
start assigning people to it. And
And-
it sounds like this person was on the low end of the totem pole. He got assigned to something to which he didn't want. And from the lawsuit, he tried to trade with other people, but they weren't willing to do it. It is not up then to the police department to, what's the right word that I'm looking for? To excuse him because of that. It's not
That's
their
preferential treatment.
right.
Right.
It's not their problem.
Yeah.
Right, so
in that case.
let's change the scenario then. let's say he gets an emergency call where a 19-month-old has had their arms chopped off and they're laying in a bathtub because their religious mother thinks that
God just spoke to them.
Sure, right? And he's got to respond to that call. Does he then tell his commanding whatever that he's not going to respond to that because he doesn't believe in the religion that mother believes in, and so therefore he's not going to do anything to aid that, right? You see what I'm saying?
Not even
he's
that.
neglecting his
religion should never enter
exactly.
into,
So I mean,
into
so
a public
if
position.
you change the scenario a little bit, all of a sudden, I mean,
Let's make it a little bit easier. If
I
this
thought
was,
that was, I mean,
if this was the Days of 47 parade and he refused to participate in it because maybe he is a Ute Indian and his
or he's a Catholic and just doesn't like the Mormons.
not even that, a Ute Indian who his stance is we were here before the Mormons. I don't want to celebrate anything about Mormonism. I believe the exact same thing would happen to him. Would it not?
Yeah.
And am I going out on a limb and saying that?
No, I don't think so at all.
I think once you take that position, you're
a public servant.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you sign up for public service, you are beholden to the public and
Right.
not who you determine the appropriate public should
So
be.
what about a librarian turning someone away at the door because they are of a different religion?
That's
First of all,
illegal too.
Way
Okay,
too much power that a librarian has. But
I'm just saying we're throwing out ridiculous scenarios. So I
Right.
thought,
I don't think if you operate a business in a public setting open to the public, you should not be allowed to turn anyone away for any specific race, religion, ethnicity, or I already said that basically, or sexual preference. Now, what I would say you can turn someone away from is someone comes in and are being rowdy.
right.
Fine,
Well,
turn
we're
away.
talking about a couple of different
and
things here.
yeah, well, and those
Well,
those are protected classes also.
Yes.
Exactly, which is what I wanted to get to.
Except for in
because-
Utah.
No.
Well-
It's still a protected class, and you could still bring a lawsuit for violating the Civil Rights Act of 1964. However, what's not included in that class is sexual orientation.
That's
gender
what I was getting
identity.
at, saying it's not protected. Because in Utah, you can still be kicked out of an apartment or fired from a job or not allowed housing because of your sexual preference.
If you're gay or transgender.
Yes, which is batshit crazy.
Right, because we afford these, or maybe we've come to expect that these things shouldn't be done because of these laws. And maybe there will be a day where we include sexual orientation or gender identity as a protected class, as we do religious preference, as we do ethnic origin.
And we should.
Exactly, we should. And hopefully there will be a day where it's a no-brainer that these things, of course we don't do that. But for right now...
Of course we're not fucking bigoted assholes.
Yeah.
But we don't have to right now.
But it's always a fight. I mean, it's every single step for every single group has been a battle.
I mean, right now, I hate the biggest excuse where someone will say, I am not a bigot. It's my religion. So, therefore, since my religion says it doesn't make me a bigot. I'm like,
how does throwing your religion on top of it make you not a bigot?
I'm like, well, that just makes you bigoted.
That makes you a
and you're
religious bigot.
It means they're a bigot, but they don't have to explain it.
It makes you infallible. And that's what a lot of people would like to think they are. They're not responsible for their own actions or their own thoughts.
My imaginary authority is more important than my actual authority.
There you go.
Speaking of infallibility.
Ooh, is that a lead-in? That was horrible.
What is it about segues in you guys? Can you not do one smoothly? I don't understand.
That's part of the game,
They're
Tim.
really good, yeah.
No, that's part of the game.
They're almost perfect until somebody brings up that a segue is coming.
That's the game. We just go, hey, so speaking of...
Today we're playing Find the Segway.
Found it.
Spotted it.
Because you made it obvious. But continue.
I'm unusual in so many things. St. Louis Archbishop Robert Carlson.
Dan has some opinions.
You'll love this one, Tim.
I already love it.
Gave a deposition last month in a lawsuit that claims the Minnesota Archdiocese and the Diocese of Winona created a public nuisance by keeping information on abusive priests secret, reported Minnesota Public Radio. The 69-year-old Carlson also faces a massive clergy abuse lawsuit in the Archdiocese of St. Louis, where he served as archbishop since 2009. More than 100 priests and church employees have been accused of sexual abuse. And
More than 100.
Yep.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
And the Missouri Supreme Court ordered the archdiocese to turn over their names under seal. He said...
And that's more than 100 in just this diocese, right?
Yes. In Minnesota.
Jesus.
Yep. I know. It's
Don't act surprised, because that's not the surprising part of the story.
No, it gets much worse.
Yeah. So, this guy says, quote, I'm not sure whether I knew it was a crime or not. I understand today it's a crime.
What crime
Yeah,
would
that
that be, sir? Robbing a gas station?
Don't talk like that. You're only making it worse.
Why, sir? I just want to...
Because as a man, I can't control myself. You need to stop making yourself appealing to me.
Yeah. Come join me in the rectory.
By that I mean the rectory.
Did you hear the one about the nun who chased the priest all around the rectory and finally caught him by the organ? Dun-dun-dun.
Oh man. I wish we had an organ.
Yeah, no, I know. Where is the soundboard?
I'll bring the keyboard next week.
The first of all, what a fucking liar that he didn't know. But the accusers
didn't know what? You haven't even said that part of it yet.
Yeah, he didn't know that it was a crime.
A crime to do what?
Keep going,
dude.
What else happened?
Sexual abuse.
What?
What? Not of grandmothers, right?
What the fuck is going on here? The accuser's attorneys asked Carlson whether he knew in 1984, when he was an auxiliary bishop in the Archdiocese of St. Paul in Minneapolis, that it was illegal for priests to have sex with children. He said, I'm not sure if I did or didn't, referring to whether he knew if it was illegal or not. Brian.
Well, you know, it's a good
Is it
cop-out.
illegal to have sex with children?
Legally?
I'm not sure.
I mean, I didn't
priest,
you
so I don't
wanna-
know these
Yeah.
things.
I never read about it in civics class.
My thought was,
There are so many priests doing it. How could it be illegal?
sure. and aren't we all glad to have the truth in the church on earth so we know morally right from wrong?
Right.
Especially
You
if
know?
you can get it into somebody.
Wow. Nice. A custard cannon joke.
Custard. Oh, that was a double entendre. Cannon,
Yes.
cannon. Oh, wow. That was funny on more than one level.
Yeah, and nobody laughed, which was weird. So Carlson discussed the claims of one sex abuse victim and the statute of limitations for such claims in a 1984 letter to John Roach. Then the Archbishop of St. Paul, Minneapolis. All right, you probably didn't get most of that, but clearly, if he's discussing the statute of limitations, he's familiar with the laws surrounding the issue.
Right.
And this was a letter written in 1984, so
Yes.
obviously he's saying now he wasn't sure if he knew the laws. There's a
Because
letter out from 1984
Because the
talking
time
about
has
the
passed.
statute of limitations.
Right.
He clearly knew, so he's a fucking liar.
No. What he is doing, regardless of statute of limitation, he's still liable for whatever happens if now he admits to something regardless. Because child abuse
Yeah.
has no statute of limitations.
Well, I think it depends. I think it goes state to state. Depends on the actual statute of limitation.
Then we're going to need more information.
Well, and I'm not sure, but the fact is, it doesn't. All of that's irrelevant because if he wrote a letter in '84 discussing things as intricate in the law as statute of limitations on certain crimes,
like him knowing
and
I got to
then-
wait 20 years.
and then 30 years later,
Yeah.
he says, "Well, I don't know if I knew it was legal or not."
Irregardless,
Bullshit.
the statute of limitations is still a thing.
Yes.
Right, but but what I'm saying is he was clearly
He knew he could not talk about it at that time, or else he would be in trouble.
He knows he cannot talk about it now, which is why he never said, "Yeah, I did this shit."
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
So he's a liar.
that in itself is an admission.
No.
Oh yeah,
Is a tacit admission.
He's claiming ignorance.
And ignorance.
He's claiming I didn't know it was illegal.
Ignorance is not
we're
an
gonna
admission.
do this again. All right,
Ignorance is not an admission to anything.
that's true. Okay, Fine.
You
Fair
know-
enough. Let's keep going.
Reading between the lines goes a long way in knowing what somebody's saying, but reading between the lines is not a legal thing.
No.
You cannot go in front of a judge and said, I read between the lines to what my client was saying, and even though he says, yeah, I raped kids, that shouldn't be a thing. He can say that, but unless his client admits to it, it's irrelevant to anything.
Well,
and
this
I
guy-
think we can all agree that this guy's an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
On the whole, regardless, because we can read between the lines and get away with it.
All right, fair enough. And I think we had a little bit of this last week in a story that I had.
Imagine that, Christians, and having to read between the lines.
And I think that we're on a little bit different level coming at these stories, but my overall opinion is this guy's a fucking scumbag.
This guy is a scumbag.
No. You already got to talk.
It gets worse.
All right. So this guy's a fucking scumbag, and he's a lying piece of shit, and he covered all this shit up, and he's a fucking criminal, right?
Yeah.
And so, I understand all the nuances, and there's little tricky lawyery shit that you can pull out of all of his statements and stuff. But I'm not in any way about to try to defend what he's saying.
Oh, no, I'm not
on
gonna
all
defend
these-
him one bit.
I know, but I'm just saying, we kind of had this little... But there are nuances to this, sure. And legally, there's going to be some issues. I get that. But I'm not bringing this story up for that purpose. I'm just saying this is in the news, and this guy's a fucking douchebag, and this is by no means... like an isolated case in the Catholic Church or even in Protestant sects or even
like
in Mormonism.
you said, there's more than 100 priests
More than 100,
in
right.
this diocese.
Yes.
Right. And so I don't know. I have this weird thing about like when I go through my notes and I highlight this stuff and I think, oh yeah, I'll read this tonight and they'll agree with me.
Well, that's
I do agree with you.
Oh, I totally agree.
I
I think
agree
we're on
with you
agreement.
too. And we were talking before. I know nobody else knows this, but we were talking before.
We know.
We were
No,
talking.
they were here last week, so they know this.
Okay, let's not get creepy. What I get all that, and I obviously this guy should be punished for the things that he oversaw and for the things that he let go, because the victims are never going to get anything out. These kids,
Their
who
lives
are
are already
affected by
ruined.
this,
Yeah, they're
ruined. Nothing. I feel like now I'm trying to defend this guy. There's nothing that will be able to be done.
So
But
I
let's
just
try to get him. But
I just did a quick search to see how many dioceses there are in the United States. There are 195 separate Catholic dioceses
Right.
within the United States.
And that's for 50 states.
Yeah.
About
And
3 a
within
state.
one, they had over 100
Yep.
priests
Yeah.
who were accused of this.
look to see how many priests have been convicted,
Oh.
because I think that's going to be just in that one.
It's going to be lower for sure.
We're going to say hundreds of thousands of kids have been affected by this.
Sure.
Agreed.
How many people have been punished for it?
None.
Very, very few.
Yeah, fewer.
Yeah.
And not publicly
because they
either.
get moved around.
And I
Yeah.
think what this story
Because
portrays,
the Vatican has fucking
what this
billions
story
and billions.
portrays is the ultimate sadness in this, is that you can feign ignorance all you want, and it's going to allow you to get away with a lot. And that's ultimately what this has to say, that it is a failing on all of us to rightfully prosecute and rightfully bring to justice the people who are responsible
So
for
that's-
this.
Well, and
That's the one-
when you have professional apologists like Bill Donahue
Bill
out
Donahue,
there
yeah.
Exactly.
Fuck that guy.
talking
Fuck
about
that
how
guy in
it's
particular.
not pedophilia, it's pederasty, and somehow that's fucking better.
Yeah.
I would like to see his explanation or his apologist stance on 100 priests in one fucking diocese abusing children.
You have his
Yeah.
apology right here in this guy's statement.
Okay, so
I didn't know whether or not it was right. Blah 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 blah. You knew whether or not it's right. You know
so
now.
we're all
Yeah.
on board that the institutional pedophilia of the Catholic Church is
And the
not-
hiding
is
of
not,
it.
is not cool,
I
right?
think it's
Oh,
the
no.
hiding
All right,
of
I'll
it
continue.
and the unwillingness as an institution
To admit.
take responsibility.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
yeah, fuck
definitely.
yeah,
To
they
Yeah.
don't.
settle
Oh, yeah.
that these things have happened, that makes it more of a crime already over on top of what a horrible crime it
Yes,
already
right.
is.
Yeah, here's where it gets interesting.
Oh my god, it gets interesting.
More interesting?
There's the twist.
Oh,
The spokesman for this guy said the question does not address the Archbishop's moral stance on the sin of pedophilia.
Because if he's okay with it, is it okay? Is that what I'm wondering?
Well, his moral stance has been that it is a most egregious offense.
So he's highly offended by it, but he's willing to do it.
No.
But it's not
No,
something that
no.
he should necessarily report to the authorities.
The way I took it was his opinion is that pedophilia is egregious to God. But when it's a priest, he's a little fucking
But
murky
if
on
God
the rule
told
book.
me to do it, it's okay.
I don't know if he's even saying that, but it's just that
I know what's right and wrong.
And
I don't
again-
have to
Oh,
make
yeah.
the courts
Well, and
prove
again,
what was right and wrong.
God didn't
what
step
happened.
in to stop any of this from happening.
well,
No.
of course. And then he goes on to say the former chancellor admitted during the deposition that he encouraged parents at least once to report sex abuse to police, although he never reported such incidents himself.
I want to point out something that I've been researching a lot lately because it has come up within the Mormon Church as well as it has come up within liturgical instances such as this. Whether or not priests need to report this or whether or not they're required by law to report this, because it's
Yeah.
still a gray area legally.
Yeah.
As far as Utah goes, Utah has ruled that it is not the bishop's responsibility to report crimes, and that's what this is, a crime
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
committed by
This is a
its
fucking
members.
felony.
It's not required for any member of the church to report crimes committed by other people of the church who were acting as a advisor to another person to report those things.
Which
How
I think
fucking
is
horrible
complete
is that?
bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a special exemption because you're a religious leader?
Yeah.
And-
That you don't have to report crimes committed by somebody else who tells you about it?
and I'm afraid
Anybody
that-
else, you would be a fucking accessory to that crime.
Yes.
Exactly. And it feels like this is exactly the same situation where I heard it, whatever. I'm not required to report this to anybody in my official position as a member of a faith, which is not, it does not say that that is required. It is required from anybody who hears this information of child abuse or anything that they need to report that to the authorities.
And whether
It's a moral responsibility.
whether you're legally required or not, it's a moral responsibility
You're
to do
saying,
it.
though-
Don't tell me that I'm not moral as an atheist when you won't fucking
Their
report this
argument-
as a religious person.
Their argument and the Supreme Court, in a few cases not particularly related to this, have affirmed that their position as a religious person is exempt from the Constitution of the United States.
That's bullshit.
Yeah. It gets better. Let me read this last little bit.
Better.
Yeah. He goes on to say, I think if you go back in history, I think the whole culture did not know what they were dealing with. I think therapists didn't. I don't think we fully understood. I don't think public school administrators understood it. I don't think we realized it was the serious problem it is. And I thought, doesn't that just fucking say it all?
Who
Was
the
it the
fuck
priest
does not
saying that?
understand?
Now
it's
wait,
not
now,
right
now,
to.
so does the Pope get revelation about morals from God or not? Right? If the Catholic Church is what they say it is, and it's the only true church that has the Vicar of Christ, and they get revelation about morals, why do they fall so far behind society on very simple moral issues?
Because it's not about God at that point. And I think
but shouldn't it be? I mean, if they're making that claim,
if they're making that
no.
claim, it should be.
if they're making that
should
claim, they
be.
should be way ahead of everybody.
But these are people who use the Institute of Religion and also use the protection of religion
Yes.
that the United States affords them to hide behind these things.
Certainly.
And what can we do as a country, as a legal entity, to bring some sort of end to this.
Stop providing exemptions for religious affiliation.
I mean, I think it's completely fucked that someone who claims a moral authority is raping children.
Right.
I mean, anybody, no matter what, but someone who claims, I mean, yes, I will say
I receive my authority from God.
But, I mean, there are some religious organizations that do some good help. I'm not saying they all do. There's exceptions. But when you have such a cancer
when you break
in a
the
religious
law,
organization of raping children,
right?
It's
when you have rampant
an epidemic.
Rampant systemic child abuse throughout your organization
and hiding
it, and not working to protect the victims, but to protect the people who are victimizing these children. That's fucking bullshit.
Right. I don't care how much good you do as a religion or as an organization. You are fucked if you're taking part in those activities.
And the First Amendment is a double-edged sword in this.
Well, and what good can any religion do that cannot be done by a secular organization?
Nothing.
Right.
More can be done. I was highly offended when they had the I want to say I can't remember if it was Haiti or which tsunami it was, where the Christian church went over there and handed out something like 500,000 rosary beads and said how much good they were doing over there. Well, Haiti, like those rosary beads are doing jack shit. They need food. They need water. They need shelter. They need
Haiti
warmth.
was the earthquake, but there was truckloads of Bibles being sent that was taking the place of food, water, emergency equipment,
medicine,
all that kind of shit.
And these groups are saying, look at how much good we're doing. We're over here helping. Like, you're not doing a
They were sending tons and tons of this worthless fucking paper that was taking up the room of real aid and real medical equipment that could have done some real fucking good.
If you can't eat it, if it can't keep you warm, and if it can't keep you healthy, they don't need it at that point.
Absolutely.
They need the basic essentials to live.
Absolutely.
You're sucking up precious resources in the limited number of planes that can land in a fucking disaster area to deliver supplies and goods.
Yeah,
not even landing,
just fucking wasting it.
The ports. I mean, in a natural desert, most ports are closed, so there's limited port space. There's limited everything. And you are taking up valuable space, valuable time of people to unload that cargo. That is absolutely 100% worthless unless you want to start a fire to heat something.
Right. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, and if you're the kind of person that would send a Bible to a place like that, think about this for a second. Why the fuck did your God send an earthquake in the first fucking place? And what the fuck do you think your little Bible's going to do after that fact? If that's what he really wants to do, forget about the words on that book.
Last thing I want to do in a natural disaster is read. Any book.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, no
I don't care what book it is. I don't want to read. Shit. I want to eat. I want to be warm.
I'll tell you what. This is going to be a little. But go watch the episode of No Reservations where Anthony Bourdain goes to Haiti, and he thinks, all right, well, I'm gonna, I got some money. I've got a show and whatever, and all these people in Haiti, and he decides to buy the few people that are in line behind him at this food stand their dinners, and watch how fast the fucking crowd grows to get food.
They need food
because they fucking need it.
They're hungry,
and he gets overwhelmed. I mean, but that's a great fucking illustration about how worthwhile your fucking Bibles are.
I really wish I could remember the image and what it said, because now I'm going to butcher it and it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, go ahead. No, do it.
Why would a god want you to spend millions of dollars upholding a denial for people to get married instead of using all of that money to feed children who need it, to house people who don't have homes?
Right.
To build your fucking mega church.
Yep.
Yeah.
Versus providing food for people who are starving.
And why is that godly?
Yeah, Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$600,000 in 1 weekend stolen from a Sunday.
Not
including debit cards
weekend.
Yeah, not including debit card or credit card transactions.
Yeah.
A lot of his 90-something% of his income is totally undisclosed, untold millions.
Which, it doesn't need to be.
But damn it, he's got a nice smile.
He sure does.
Isn't he dreaming?
Well, he's definitely a likable guy. I mean, and that's part of the appeal. But
sure. Yeah. Well, the best salesmen are.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Like Chris Hemsworth. Is he a salesman? I don't know. I'm unusual. All the public debates between celebrity atheists and evangelical pastors are as meaningless as literary awards and Oscar night.
You know, before we get into the story, I'm going to be controversial and say I agree.
On
Whatever the story is.
No, what the author of this story suggests. I had a feeling going into this
that
that
we
we
brought
would
up.
disagree immediately.
We're going to have some issues.
which story?
We
All right,
totally
controversy.
are. I know it.
Controversy.
All right, which story is
Let
it?
me reread this. I'm going to keep this right up here. I don't want anyone reading ahead.
Oh, snap.
All the public debates between celebrity atheists and evangelical pastors are as meaningless as literary awards and Oscar night.
I completely disagree.
I completely disagree.
I'm confused.
I agree.
And Tim agrees. Okay. All right. Let's do this.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding. Here we go.
First of all,
Okay, Ryan, do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, go again.
Let me read it one more time. Okay. All the public debates
Yeah.
between celebrity atheists and evangelical pastors are as meaningless as literary awards and Oscar night.
I disagree with it.
I disagree with that.
okay.
And Dan disagrees. And Tim agrees. All right.
Well, first
Tim
of
is
all,
the lone dissenter.
well, hold on, because
It's
I
because you're gay, isn't it?
it's exactly because I'm gay, and I'm going to totally bring up a gay institution to prove my point.
Seriously?
All right.
Okay,
How many
all
of the how many of you watched the last Tonys?
Nobody.
I didn't watch the
Oh,
last Oscars.
Matt
I didn't
raised
watch
his
any
hand.
of
I'm
them.
unusual.
Matt raised his hand.
Exactly.
I never watched any of them.
So, well, my question is, why does whoever won Best Actor in a Musical matter to you as the next Christian pastor that came by saying the last crazy thing they meant?
But it doesn't. It doesn't.
It's
But
not.
that's
Well,
different.
exactly.
But
Hold on,
that's
hold
different
on.
than a debate.
Well, but that's the point. And the whole debate isn't over. I think the author of this piece, who is actually the son of a very prominent evangelical pastor and who has railed against his father,
Who's the author?
Frank Schaefer.
I'm holding it so close.
Matt's
Frank
trying to check his source.
Frank Schaefer is,
Are you sure?
yeah, he is, it's from the CNN religion blog, right?
Maybe.
Maybe. I don't source my material, so.
Or did you steal it from HuffPo, who then put another author on it? Or
Well, I can tell you that it is.
Okay, well,
And
it does get better. So
Oh, I know it
I'm
gets better.
Okay, I'm curious to see how you're going to get your way out
Okay,
of this.
say your whole beef with it, and then we'll discuss.
Okay,
All right.
all right. The words he goes on to say, I believe it's a he.
It's a
God damn it, Tim. Fucking studying motherfucker. The words we use to label ourselves are just as empty. What exactly is a believer? And for that matter, what is an atheist? Maybe we need a new category other than theism, atheism, or agnosticism that takes paradox and unknowing into account.
Are you done?
No.
Okay.
just
Take
dramatic
me, he says. I'm an
Frank
atheist
Schaefer.
who believes in God.
No.
Frank Schaefer.
Bing, 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 bing. You're wrong. You're fucking wrong.
Okay, well, stop getting hung up on one particular part of his story to then say that his entire message is
Well,
untrue.
I've disagreed with the beginning and with this part.
Okay,
so
okay. Keep going.
I'm
All right.
0 for 2.
What I said was then you're a theist.
Right. If you
You're-
believe
you're
in a
not
God, you're a theist.
You're not an atheist. You're just. All right, I'll go on. And he says, "Let me explain." I went on to read. I believe that life evolved by natural selection. I believe that evolutionary psychology explains away altruism and debunks love, and that brain chemistry undermines the illusion of free will and personhood. This is me speaking now. Not a single point here has anything to do with atheism or theism.
But
Nothing. This is all a giant red herring.
okay,
Well,
explain.
Unless you want to tie evolution into you can't
No, yeah,
necessarily
but-
believe
no.
in evolution if you're
Yeah,
going to
but
be
no, I'm taking him at his
religious.
word, right? He says he's an atheist. That means he doesn't believe in God.
Yeah,
so
but I
none of this other
wish-
stuff. I'm waiting for him to make a case that
Okay.
he's an atheist that believes in God.
I
And none of
wish-
that means anything toward that.
Toward a
particular-
belief in God.
Right.
Okay, sure.
None of that means a damn thing towards any of that.
But I
Sure,
wish
okay.
you had a little bit of background before, because
Okay,
I
give
believe
it to me.
I believe context
Straighten me out.
is a huge part of any discussion.
Sure.
And the context here is his dad is very evangelical.
Mm-hmm.
His dad rails against gays.
Sure.
Okay.
And this guy, in fact, wrote a book called God Hates Fags in response to Westboro Baptist and in response to what his own father preaches against that sort of thing, saying, I don't believe in this.
He doesn't believe that God hates fags.
Right. And it's kind of a weird, and I think it's a more nuanced position than most atheists will ever agree to, period. I guess that's the end of my proclamation.
It sounds to me like he's not an atheist. He doesn't agree with all of the theological views.
He's a liberal
of his,
Christian, or a liberal theist.
Yeah, he's a liberal Christian or a liberal theist. He's not an atheist.
I will give you that. I don't think he is an atheist Christian. Fine. That does not discount or discredit anything in the original post, where it doesn't matter what you say is as important as whoever wins the Oscar award. Because ultimately what he's saying is all of our language is based on popular opinion that wins the awards.
Okay, but I'll disagree with that right there, because
I can almost agree with that.
No,
statement.
but I won't. I'll disagree with that for me personally, because the literary awards and the Oscar night, yeah, I mean, who gives a shit, right? I mean, some people do,
That's
but I
the
don't.
point.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. But I'll tell you what, when I was in the phase of not knowing what was going on, I was watching Hitchens, I was watching Dillahunty, I was
You were
watching
watching the
Dawkins,
debates.
and
Yeah.
those fucking things
I still
changed
watch
my
the debates.
fucking mind.
Yeah.
They changed my
Okay,
mind about stuff.
That's your own personal opinion.
Yes, and so in that fact,
That does
they're
not make
more
it
important.
fact. Your personal opinion does not make...
Okay, all right.
Well, but
Were
it does
you at
make
the
it.
con-
It
were you
does
at
make
the
it
con-
fact in
I agree.
that.
Were you at the
In
convention?
that, if somebody wins an award, if somebody wins an award, if somebody wins a Tony, if somebody wins an Oscar, if somebody
Right.
wins an Emmy,
Right.
it doesn't make me automatically think that they're a great
They're the best
performer.
actor.
Okay, I think...
They're the
But
best actor.
if somebody
Yeah.
wins a debate, it does change my mind about whether or not they are more believable in their stance.
If
I
they
think-
make non-fallacious arguments that
Tim's
make
going
sense,
crazy.
that are consistent,
That are
that's-
backed up by
okay, sorry.
logic and
Yeah,
reason.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
No, but I think that's ultimately what Dan is talking about. You are the exception. You're not the rule. And the rule for most people is to defer to popular opinion about what is right and what is most popular.
That's a fallacy.
I would say
I
that's a
don't-
that's a bandwagon fallacy.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
an
how
argumentum
people
ad
think.
populum.
I'm not saying it's
no,
right.
you're right.
I'm
I
not,
agree.
I'm
I
not
agree.
making that argument
Yeah.
to you
I agree.
now.
Most people do that, but it's
Exactly.
a fallacious
You're
argument.
right.
Sure.
And that is exactly what he's arguing right here in less than scientific terms.
I think you're reading that into it because he doesn't state that.
Am I?
Yeah, he doesn't state that.
But
You're reading
how-
that into it.
How do you tell somebody they're wrong
Let me
in a way
reread
where
this.
you don't want them to get offended by what you're saying?
Let me reread this with that in mind. and see if
Honestly, I
this-
don't really care if they're offended.
Yeah, but let me
Ultimately, I don't care if they're offended.
Okay.
By if my opinion that I like Matt Dillahunty says, I choose I want to believe as many true things as possible and as few false things as possible.
Right.
And so if me in doing that offends somebody, I really don't give a shit.
But I agree, and I also hold firm to my belief that you are the exception. You are not the rule.
Well, sure, not it. Well, I would like to think that I am becoming less of an exception in that
And
area.
you are.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
let
don't
me
feel...
with that in mind. Then
Yeah.
let me reread this statement. See if it sounds any different. All the public debates between celebrity atheists and evangelical pastors are as meaningless as literary awards and Oscar night.
And I would say it's the as meaningless that I have a problem. with.
Right, and
Yeah.
I
I think so too.
And I'm going to have to say I think I know why,
I-
because mostly I think we all think on the same level. The thing, though, that we need to focus more on is less people and more ideas.
Yes, I would put more importance on the debate. I don't
Yeah.
care who wins an award. Like you're saying, I could fucking care who wins an award for what movie.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't affect my day.
Right.
I like to see the debates going on
Yep.
between opposing sides and duking it out. It's like it's a literary or it's a verbal
Who's a better
boxing
thinker?
match.
Yeah.
Who's got the facts? Who's not making a fallacious argument? Who's not appealing to authority? All that kind of stuff.
Who's more
that's what I want-
reasonable?
And
Right,
popular
and I don't
culture,
want to see. I don't care.
Yeah, well, and that's just
Popular
it. Is we're
culture-
talking about reason versus popularity.
Well, popular
Yeah.
culture wants to ascribe who's more reasonable, who has the best argument.
I don't think so.
I don't
Really?
know.
You don't think so? That's what
You
the
can't tell me that the
Academy Awards are.
Kardashians are the more reasonable people.
But the who wins awards? That's what this is going after.
The
Popular culture tells you what is the best movie, not exactly what is the best movie.
Right. I
That's
agree with
what
that.
I think he's saying
the
here.
people who win the awards are the leads of the movies who brought in the most money in the box office. Yeah.
Right, who have
so that's a popular vote.
maybe the least to say about something,
but
who bring it to a larger audience.
Okay, so
which is what specific Richard Dawkins, I don't want to say or bring him into the discussion, like whatever he does is unimportant, but he is the person who brings the most atheism to the largest audience. I
think he's very popular in the atheist movement, just like Hitchens was, and I think Hitchens had even more influence in it.
Just like the focus is also on the guy, the Westboro Baptist guy who just died.
Phelps.
Fred Phelps. His idea or his brand of Christianity is not new, or it's very well known in the Christian community.
Sure.
He was the one who brought that to popularity. He does not define the movement. He was the loudest voice and the most popular voice. As Richard Dawkins is not the voice of atheism, but is the most popular voice to atheism on the other side.
Okay.
And I think all this paper is meant to say is, stop focusing on individuals. Let's focus more
on the entire movement.
Yeah, ideas. And I have a hard time deciding how to do that.
I would say that if that's what he wanted to convey, he could have worded that.
I mean,
he could have put that in the piece.
Ultimately, I think what we have here is an equivocation fallacy. And it's really subtle, but I think that's what's going on. Between celebrity atheists and evangelical pastors as meaningless as so literary awards and Oscar nights are based on argumentum ad populum,
popularity, right? Exactly.
Yeah, and the debates between atheists and evangelical pastors
center more on who is the most popular in that particular movement at the time.
No, not at all.
No, I think it's an equivocation fallacy.
I think I know what you're trying to get at. I think you're trying to say, if there's a debate going on and it's a no name, nobody's really going to listen to it. But if someone like a celebrity atheist shows up, people are going to put more into it. More people are going to view it. More people are going to watch it. The same way as if the movie had won an Oscar as the best leading role, more people are going to be inclined to watch it because it's a winning movie, because they're more famous. They're not going to watch someone else little guy. They want to see the big guy.
Sure, and I can agree with that point, but I don't see that as being as meaningless as somebody winning a Tony.
No.
Or an Emmy, or an Oscar, or a Grammy, or whatever.
I think I was going with his whole side of the celebrity atheist saying it's people are more
anything
inclined.
I have a problem with, because I think celebrity anything distracts from the ideas presented, and I don't think the celebrity at the center of attention has anything to do with that. Because I don't think at the end of the day, any of these people stepped up and said, I want to be the voice of this particular opinion.
I think some have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's the very first line of this 2-page.
Did you ever finish? I was just going to say, did you ever finish what your argument was? Because now I feel like we're arguing something and I don't even know what your official stance was.
I think it's good. Just like we were talking on the way up here, I think sometimes controversy is great for the podcast. It stirs things up. We don't want to be those
100% agreement and everything.
Yeah, the Sesame, the Sesame Street aliens with the telephone.
Bring, bring,
hello, yep. Yeah,
but I think that ultimately,
we don't want to do that. So
that ultimately comes down to how people think that atheism should be. Oh gosh, I'm losing the word. How it should be not enforced, but how somebody should act. What's the word I'm looking for?
How somebody should view it, how somebody should necessarily behave as an atheist?
Well, yeah. Because I think that there's different reasons for everybody, and there's different reasons for everything. And I don't feel like I'm making a logical fallacy saying that I think this is what this person was intending. And I say that because I know what journalism requires from people. You want to reach the largest audience as possible
Oh, yeah.
in a
Well,
way that you're not going to piss off anybody.
That in
And
itself
so-
may be a fallacy.
Yeah,
but-
well, and so in that sense, then he's being hypocritical because he's trying to create a controversy, to create celebrity status, to create this view of he's being controversial, he's speaking out against these things, which would then lead to
an equivocation fallacy,
right.
which is what I say. Yeah.
right.
His sin in this story is saying, I am an atheist who is a Christian.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
because
we
we
all
got
agree with
moron.
that?
So
If
yeah,
this
let's-
wasn't
let's-
in there,
let's get to
how
that
would we
part.
feel about the story?
Let's get to that part. So he has an objection to the way we label ourselves. He says they're just as empty. What exactly is a believer? And for that matter, what is an atheist? Maybe we need a new category other than theism, atheism, or agnosticism that takes paradox and unknowing into account.
If you're agnostic, you're an atheist.
Yeah, I agree. And then he says, take me. I'm an atheist who believes in God. And I said, then you're a theist.
Bullshit.
Not necessarily. You can be agnostic.
No.
No, I don't think that.
If the question
I
is, do
think
you believe
this
in
is
God?
what the argument that I'm suggesting comes into play.
Okay,
that we end
all right.
up arguing too much amongst ourselves about what we define ourselves to be, that it's counterproductive.
Well, if
let's
if
hit
the
this real
question
quick.
is, if the question is, do you believe in a God, and you say I don't know, you're an
Then
atheist.
Then you're an atheist. I mean,
you're agnostic
No.
though, because
No.
saying I don't know makes you agnostic.
if you don't know what you know, if you don't know what you
No.
believe,
We're asking
We
what you
have-
believe.
Then we have completely different understandings.
There's
about
a
what
difference
agnostic
between knowledge
is.
and belief,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Would you
Yes.
agree to that? There's a
And-
difference between knowledge and belief.
Right, but I'm gonna have to say it's a stretch to say that you know everything that there is to know.
That is a stretch.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm not-
think
none of
anybody's
us are
ever
saying
said that.
which,
right.
which
We're
makes
not saying that.
And so if
With-
you don't know that there's a God, I mean, you can be an agnostic that's my problem with the term agnostic.
Right.
You can be an agnostic theist. It doesn't tell me what you believe about God.
right,
No.
right. But why does it make you necessarily a bad agnostic atheist? Because
It
maybe
doesn't.
your propensity is more to thinking
Okay,
that there's not
It doesn't.
a God.
I'm an agnostic atheist.
Yeah,
Okay.
so am I.
I'm not just an agnostic.
Right.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Tim.
I think we're getting more hung up on terminology than we are about the actual issues.
I know, but it's great radio. So let's.
But
keep
I think
going.
that's good.
What? As an atheist, for you call yourself an atheist.
I call myself an atheist.
What does that mean to you? Do you?
So is that you know there's no God?
No,
Okay.
I will not admit that I don't know. Although at the same time, I'm not going to say that I do know.
So you're agnostic
No,
about that?
I will not say that I'm agnostic because my propensity is to say that what I know weighs heavily on more than what I don't know. So therefore, I feel comfortable saying that I am an atheist. I can comfortably say that I do not believe there is a God based on
Right.
what I know, even though I don't know, and even though there is probably no way that I'm ever going to know.
So you're an agnostic atheist, just like the rest
No.
of us.
I am an atheist. I have no problem saying wholeheartedly I am
Yeah.
an atheist.
Okay.
And
I'm an
I
atheist.
also don't feel
It's a
bad
yes or no
saying-
question.
Yeah, I also don't feel bad saying at the end
Okay.
of the day, in a very, very remote possibility in a way that science is never, ever going to establish in my lifetime, that maybe something weird could happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
I also acknowledge that as well.
Right. Okay. So let's separate this a little bit. There's knowledge and there's belief. Those
Okay.
are two different things, right?
Right.
Do you believe there's a God?
Do you know everything?
No. Hold on. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
No, that's my question.
No,
If
yeah,
you-
I know. I'll answer you.
And
I
my
will.
answer is no.
You don't have to know
Do
everything.
you
Yeah, my answer is
believe
no.
there's a God?
No.
Do you believe there's a God?
No.
Okay. Do you know there's no God?
No.
Do you know there's no?
No.
Okay, so we're in the exact same position.
Then
right?
we're all agnostic atheists.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Exactly. It gets deeper than that.
Okay, go ahead.
Because do you think that it is ever possible for us to know?
No.
Ooh.
Because I
Ever?
believe when we're
Is
dead,
it
we get put in the ground and rot.
possible?
Never say never.
Wow, is it ever possible to know?
Maybe I should
I think if
make
you
that more
kn-
relative to your life. Do
If you know,
I would say
you
no.
would no longer be atheist.
I would say no.
which still makes you agnostic, but you're still
Yeah.
okay saying you're atheist.
Yeah, but
Well,
I'll say this though. I would say it's only in the sense that we never truly know 100% anything.
you don't
even
have
the
to
stuff
go
that
no
we
to
really
that
fucking
many
know.
degree.
Yeah, but no, but
And you don't have to be
I'm trying
the
100%.
evidence says-
like, do I
but
know
You don't
that
have to be 100% certain that if you step off off
Yes.
of the 80th story.
Exactly.
You're gonna fall.
Off of the 80th story of a skyscraper that you're going to fall to your death.
Right now,
agree.
I
But-
know that,
but the-
but
And I'm talking a lot more.
more
Things
certain
we
than that.
don't know.
Or-
Like,
oh, okay.
what's beyond the edge of the universe? We don't know.
Well, that doesn't
we
even
may
make sense.
never
That-
know.
yeah, that's-
It is not my place to try to define
Okay.
what's beyond the edge
All right.
of the universe.
I think ultimately we're in the same position. On
we
this.
are in the same
We don't
position.
know, so we're agnostic. We don't believe, so we're atheists.
But we're not agnostic atheists.
Yes, we are.
We are
Or we don't
atheists.
believe,
exactly
so we're
what that
agnostic.
means.
We don't know.
You're
Or-
right.
yeah, sorry.
That's exactly what that means.
You're right.
So we're agnostic atheists.
All right,
Okay.
then. Moving on.
Okay, here we go.
I'll disagree with that, even though I
Wait.
disagree.
How do you disagree with that?
I would never claim to be agnostic because me,
That's not what I would say first.
I
No.
would agree with him because
Oh, my
the
God. Okay.
likelihood of there's being something that agnosticism could prove to be correct is
All right,
so
So
far.
I'm gonna throw
that
you a
I can
curveball
say.
here, Tim, and say
Yeah.
that I am a Gnostic atheist about all of the claims about any god that I have ever heard. I am a Gnostic atheist. I am an agnostic atheist insofar as I cannot know that any claim of any future gods that would be proposed would be necessarily wrong.
Okay.
For every god that has been proposed, I am a Gnostic atheist.
Okay.
I know that they are logically incompatible.
Yeah.
They are logically
I do
inconsistent.
as well.
Especially
They are
Omnimax
logically
gods.
false.
And what I'm concerned with is not for what I know, but for what I don't know.
Let me-
because I can never say for sure what I don't know is true.
Let me throw you a second philosophical curveball. You
That
said,
also does not mean that I think there's a possibility that there's a God,
No, I know,
because I
I know.
don't believe that either.
but you said the likelihood, right?
okay.
Before he started it.
Okay.
How do you go about assigning a probability?
Because there's always a probability for what you don't know. I don't understand.
Right, but okay, so what method are you using to assign a probability to the likelihood? When you say likelihood,
My own personal,
feelings,
no, right,
beliefs.
anecdotal evidence.
Experience.
Except that anecdotal evidence has no place in a scientific discussion. Therefore,
I agree.
I know that means nothing.
Right.
And therefore, that is how I'm able to say that I am atheist. Because I know my own personal...
well, I'm an atheist too.
My own personal anecdotal thoughts that there may be something that I'm not concerned with, I will never be concerned with, I may never know what it is not relevant to the scientific discussion, so I am able to say I'm an atheist because of that.
Okay.
I'm saying I'm just a straight atheist because I would give the probability of there ever being knowledge or proof of the existence of any spiritual god the slimmest of ever possibilities.
Okay, so
based on,
you two are both.
I agree.
You both. Okay, that's the reason why you fall on this side, and Dan and I are on the other, because you guys are both assigning a probability, and Dan and I are not.
Well, I mean,
because-
if you ask me to assign a probability, I would, give it the lowest number physically possible that an ant couldn't even fucking pick up.
Sure.
I agree.
Tiny.
And I might do that as well, but I have no
Then
way
you're
of
on the same side we are.
except that I would never use the words you guys are using, because I have no way of assigning a likelihood, as you said, or a probability to this kind of a situation, because there's absolutely nothing to base it
I'm
on.
not either, but I'm not absolutist in it.
I'm not either.
Well, it sounds like you
What
are.
if I said
No,
I am
I don't
99.9% sure
I
there
don't
is no
believe
existence
either.
of
So
a
I'm an
god?
atheist.
I'm an atheist.
And I don't know,
I don't know.
so I'm an agnostic.
So I'm an agnostic.
So we're all the same.
We're all the same.
I think it's a philosophical and misunderstanding.
It's not a misunderstanding.
Yeah,
it's philosophical, and nobody's
Nos-
ever going to agree with you 100% of the time.
Dan does. Dan
Except
does.
before he just walked out of the room.
Gnosticism is knowledge.
That is personal
And
bias,
theism-
and that is non-scientific.
That's
Just
that's not
because
true.
Dan agrees.
Oh,
with
no,
you
I'm not
does
making-
make
no,
it true.
No, you said nobody agrees with me. I wasn't making that argument for truth. I'm just saying
say
you said nobody.
nobody
Yeah, you
agrees.
did, but that's okay. Well,
Okay.
Okay. Gnosticism is knowledge. Theism is belief. I don't know, so I'm agnostic. But I don't believe, so I'm atheist. All right, let's go.
I
on.
mean, this is like saying
Let's
that
go on.
dinosaurs went extinct because we had too many cars.
No.
Wow, we're not even to that story, but that was great. That was great.
I was just trying to move it along.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on.
We're beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah, we are.
Talking about definitions that.
Well, I know, and it's very philosophical, but ultimately we all agree.
Hold on, but my point is, I think it is definitions that make this paper a bad thing. Nobody agrees on definitions 100%.
Fair enough.
That's what makes atheists so reluctant to agree with what he's saying.
Yeah, and this was the exact same conversation we had on the way up here about about atheists being so used to nitpicking every fucking word of an argument, right? Which was exactly what we just did.
I guess it is.
Which was we just went through this whole which is funny because we don't have a lot lot of controversy.
We don't.
Usually.
I don't think any of us disagree on what we
So does this oxymoron have a conclusion?
Okay, let me start at a different point in this.
Yeah, what was the point of the story, ultimately?
Okay, let me start here. He says, I'm an atheist who believes in God.
Okay, erase that.
No.
Past that.
None of us agree with that, do we? Even on a philosophical level.
That's not the point.
I think it's 100%
of the story,
false.
though.
That's why I call him an
Let's not get
oxymoron.
hung up on things that aren't the point of the story.
Okay, Timmy, here we go.
Timmy.
Okay,
Everybody called me that.
we'll get through his non sequiturs here. I also believe that a spiritual reality hovering over, in, and through me calls me to love, trust, and hear the voice of my Creator. That sure doesn't sound like an atheist to me.
It doesn't. I would agree. He is not an atheist.
No.
Right.
Okay.
All that said, and specifically what we were talking about before, we're getting hung up on details, and we're not discussing the point.
Timmy.
And the point, I think... And I think the point is...
Sorry, we have a horse in here.
Anyway, the point is... At least the point to me and what I took away from this was, and it's always going to be an issue for atheists and theists alike, that we give faces to our ideas and we expect those faces to act and proclaim specific things.
Yeah, but you call that God?
No, I don't call that God, and that's not what I'm saying.
He does.
No, he doesn't.
Well,
He's
and
saying that we do that, and the people that we prescribe it to, or the people that come out in popular culture doing that, may be different than what we disagree
I
with.
think he's making a false equivalence of not believing in the same things that his father does with being an atheist.
Right.
I would agree.
Let me go on. He says, it seems to me there is an offstage and onstage quality to my existence. I live on stage.
There is.
But I sense another crew working offstage. Sometimes I hear their voices singing in a way that's as eerily beautiful as offstage chorus in an opera.
So
that sounds less like atheism and more like schizophrenia.
What I hear
to me.
Don't discount him based on that.
I
that
totally
is
discount
making
him.
Timmy.
No, I think, and I feel bad that maybe you don't know this guy in the way that I know him.
I don't know him at all.
Not in the biblical sense.
But he's not an atheist.
Well, I don't
and
know
he says
biblical sense either.
he's
I do, but we get in the position of labeling people.
Yeah.
And then
sure,
deciding,
we have to. It's a necessity.
He
Exactly.
chose the label. He chose the label atheist and then went on to deliver a whole page and then some of non-atheistic stuff.
You're
theistic
right.
stuff.
And we also accept that and determine what we should and shouldn't hear based on what somebody or ourselves decide we should hear.
Yes.
And I don't agree with a lot of what he was saying. Because of the way he decided to say it.
The verbiage of it, the way he worded it.
And
well,
I think that more of a
that's
fault.
not my fault.
I think that more of a fault with his background, and I personally identify more with his background than I assume any of you do, because I assume all of you identify as ex-Mormon.
No, I'm born atheist.
Okay. Don't muddy the
Well,
water.
okay, so
We're all
fair
born
enough. But the point
you.
is
No, but the point is
you're theistic sympathetic, and I'm not.
wow, I'm offended by the suggestion.
Anyway, okay. So no, it gets better.
If
It gets
this
better.
is bad, you're even going to more agree with me with the next, disagree with me with the next story.
Yeah. All right.
And
Here
the
we go.
next one was where I thought I would get in trouble.
No, you're not. This is good stuff. Most grown-ups don't have the transparent humility to deal with the fact of that unknowing is okay. I
Yes.
agree with that.
Yes.
And they're called theists.
what? They're called agnostic.
Okay, let me read it again. Most grown-ups don't have the transparent humility to deal with the fact that unknowing is okay.
Okay.
And they're called theists.
I disagree. You can be
All right.
in between agnostic and theist and still require a different word.
I thought as a theist, you claim knowledge in everything.
No.
So,
No,
well,
not
I'm just
necessarily.
going with the Bible is, hey,
Well, I like that definition.
If you're a Gnostic theist, then you do, which is the majority of them. Yeah.
What's the difference between Gnostic theist and theist?
Not
It's the difference between an agnostic theist and a Gnostic theist.
or an
Okay.
agnostic atheist.
What
and
I
an-
guess I've been questioning all along
Yeah.
is maybe our vocabulary is too limited to describe what we want to talk about.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
You can't.
I don't
you
think
just
so. Well,
said
like
you
I
can't
said, you can be-
determine the-
You can be an agnostic atheist,
Right.
And you can be an agnostic theist,
right. But
No,
what's the
The
difference?
problem is
between-
that not many theists would say that they are agnostic
No.
theists.
No,
They would
they
say
won't.
that they are Gnostic theists.
And most atheists are agnostic because they don't know.
right.
Most theists are Gnostic because they say, I know.
I know I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ as my personal
that
Lord
is
and Savior.
claiming knowledge.
Yes.
Right.
Gnosis
They make
is
knowledge claims.
in Greek.
They make knowledge claims for knowledge that they cannot have.
Yeah. All right. I'll just go on. Okay. He says, for instance, my grandchildren take Bible stories we read at face value, and yet I see a flicker in their eyes that tells me that they already know the stories are not true in the same way boiling water is true and can be tested. It's hot. And I said, I don't even know what that means.
I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Is he claiming that he can prove his religion by saying that same way that water is hot, you can prove that it's...
No, I don't know what the fuck he's talking. Okay.
That's why, like, when I read through, like, half this article,
Yeah.
and I got lost, and I'm like, what the fuck
I
is
read
this? I got
this,
lost
yeah.
at the Christian atheist.
I read this part 3 times, and that's why I wrote, I don't know what this means. Okay, I'll read it one more time. My grandchildren take Bible stories we read at face value, and yet I see a flicker in their eyes that tells me that they already know the stories are not true. In the same way, boiling water is true. It can be tested. It's hot. How do you boiling water?
if you
what does
do
that
not-
mean? That
I-
boiling water is true. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, because it's proved. You can prove boiling water is hot because you touch it and you get burnt.
okay, and
So
that's
they're taking the stories at face value, saying, we're taking it because this is all we got is the story, so we're going to take it as not true because there's no proof. You cannot go and grab it, touch it, hold it, feel it to find out if this actually exists.
so the Bible stories are as untrue as boiling water is hot? Is that the analogy?
Yes, I
Because
think that's what he's getting at.
That would be a very simple way to state that.
That one hurt my brain. I don't know.
I like
So-
the Star Wars.
Right there, he sounds more atheist than Christian, where he basically says, yeah, we read this, but we know it's bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we're devoting too much time to this guy. Like he's just I don't understand why this is a thing. Like it's bullshit. It's all
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah, it was a big story.
Well, it's a big story because it's someone
It's-
claiming to be an
okay.
atheist who is clearly a theist.
Yes.
So that's so okay, so I'll fly, there's only a couple more lines. I'll fly through this and then we'll get to the it says it's like that mind-bending discovery from quantum mechanics that tiny objects like electrons can actually be in 2 places at once and act simultaneously like a particle and a wave. And I said, ugh, a quantum god. Maybe
Hi,
my
Deepak.
maybe my grandchildren will embrace quantum theory and won't look for ways to make the irrational rational by hiding behind words like mystery in order to sustain their faith in science or God. And so I said faith in science. So
to me,
That's-
he's
that's the end of the article. And so this article says absolutely nothing
Yeah.
that even approaches atheism.
To me, he's a semi purveyor of woo.
Yep.
Who equates not believing exactly as his father does in whatever theological beliefs his father has as being necessarily atheist. And that's wrong. That's a fallacy. It's bullshit.
It's some kind of wishy-washy quantum woo creator. Yeah. It's a Deepak Chopra god.
Yeah.
More stealth theists.
Yeah. It's bullshit.
That's what it is. All right, on to the next one.
I think that guy's put out enough pollution to kill dinosaurs.
Jesus, you're on fire. Okay.
That was horrible.
This one actually is from MSNBC. I have a source for this one. Host Richard Liu asked Representative Jeff Miller from Florida, Republican, if he was concerned about the fact that voters tend to believe scientists on the issue of climate change. Miller replied by saying scientists were not in agreement and that the climate has been naturally changing for millions of years.
They're not in agreement. In the perfect example of this was John Oliver on his show, his new show, where he showed that, sure, not all scientists agree, but 97% of all scientists agree on this.
Well, as I'm saying, the story I got, he is saying that Americans versus Rubio agreeing in science was not 100%, because that where 56 to 33 agreed that science is correct, and 33 agreed that Rubio is correct.
Not scientists.
Not
you mean.
scientists in polls of American citizens.
Yeah.
Well, and as far as I know, the only real discussion among credible scientists about climate change is how much of it is man-caused, man-made, right? Not that it's happening or it's not.
It is happening.
It's happening, but the discussion is what percentage is man-made.
I don't even think that's a discussion anymore.
And even I don't even think that that's much of a discussion anymore. And even then,
more than yes or no.
Yeah, and even then, it's not even a question that a certain percentage of it is man-made. It's that how much of it is man-made.
That's what I said.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm saying that.
Yeah. No. At first, I was like, "Am I this far behind in the climate change?" No. Yeah. How much of it's man-made? Yeah.
I mean, I liked it the way that they showed it on the Cosmos, and I'm like, that is a perfect way to illustrate it.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, right. But I want to say it's not a question of that any bit of it is man-made. It's that yes, certainly at least some part of it is man-made. It's a question of is it 100%, 90%, 70%, 60%. It's not a question of is it only like 2%. No, it's
right.
The majority of climate scientists all agree that yes, it is happening, and yes, it is in large part due to man-made causes.
Yes.
Yeah. And Richard Liu went on to say, does this concern you, though, when you look at 2014 or 2016? And Representative Miller said, I'm concerned with the truth, and the truth is climate has been changing for a long time. And that's true, but it's not all of the facts.
It's partially true.
Yeah.
But it's the rate at which the climate has been changing.
Right. He went on to say, Representative Miller said, yes, the climate is changing, but it's been doing that for centuries. Now, I guess it depends on what he means by that. But anyway, then he says, there are scientists on both sides of the issue that say it's not settled.
I think there's only two on the opposite side.
I mean, it's
97%. Yeah.
This sounds exactly like their argument against evolution. Where they find two guys from the Discovery Institute versus 400,000 scientists that say, it's fucking fact.
Right, where they find, certain religious scientists who can't separate their scientific knowledge from their religious beliefs and have to try to fit their scientific knowledge into their religious beliefs.
And use bad science to do
it.
Yeah. And so it goes on to say, while Miller is correct that there are scientists who believe humans do not cause climate change, the amount of scientists who believe that are roughly equivalent to the amount who believe that cigarettes don't kill and that the universe is not 13.8 billion years old.
Right.
So it's just another case of starting with the answer. Confirmation bias, like we...
Sure. I can hide shit in my beard.
We really need a videotape some of these podcasts.
That was not podcast friendly, but I looked over at Dan for the answer, and he had his e-cig stashed in his beard.
It's well hidden.
I can totally hide this. And
then it falls out.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
That was good. A comprehensive analysis of peer-reviewed research shows a 97% consensus among scientists that humans drive global warming. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not in the scientific community. But from what reading I've done, 97% is unfucking believable consensus.
Right.
You know, if you get 70 or higher, that's it. That's the answer. 97 is fucking ridiculous. That's super high. So this guy's picking somebody out of the 3% to support the view that he already held and saying, well, there's a debate about this. That's why it reminds me so much of the evolution issue. Yeah,
shit, you know what? Even fewer dentists agree that chewing gum.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Well, the thing I always notice when you get that small percentage that do not agree, when you look at the science that they use, they'll take, say, a 50-year time frame and go, oh, look, in this 50-year time frame, weather's been spiking up and down and up and down. Whereas the actual scientists, that 50-year time frame will be one data point. Yep. They're going back 100,000 years to show, hey, look, we can see this arc of steady, then boom, a huge spike right here.
Yeah.
Where the scientists that are claiming there's no difference are choosing a smaller time frame where you get more oscillation. So there's a bunch of peaks and valleys, and they're like, well, see?
Well, and a big difference, too, is the difference between climatologists and meteorologists.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You know, meteorologists, sure, fucking weather changes every season.
Right.
Climatologists go, well, yeah, sure, but when you look at the average temperatures over the last however long we've been recording this history versus the last, 10 years, sure, you may make a point to say that, oh, it still gets cold in Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, I know a big part of the science is going up to the Arctic and actually drilling out the ice cores,
the core samples,
and checking out the CO levels in the actual ice cores and saying
from the atmosphere.
This is what our environment likes. This is a steady area.
Right.
If we exceed it, we're gonna fuck it up.
Right.
We're gonna break it.
And we can go back millions of years tracing that data.
Yes. Yeah.
Versus, the last 100 years or so of our recorded
at least
data.
Hundreds of thousands, yeah. But yeah, like you were saying though, Dan, I mean, like the difference is between, the 7-day forecast and the 7-century average.
Right. Yeah. I'd like to see a meteorologist provide me for tell me what the weather forecast is going to be on a Friday 1,000 years from now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and then the aliens will have Al Roker going, here's what's going on in your neck of the woods.
That would be awesome.
Representative Miller goes on to say, it changes. It gets hot. I want to remind you, this is a politician.
Yes.
Not a scientist.
A currently seated politician.
Right, who probably was previously, and I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing, a lawyer or a judge. Not a scientist. He maybe had a business marketing degree or a political science. I don't know, something like that.
Who is this guy again?
It is
Representative Jeff Miller of Florida, Republican.
Well, Republican. Yeah, I mean that goes without saying. Not only is he from Florida, but all of this nonsense.
Yes, I mean, and that's I've said it before, and people have fought back with me on the idea, saying that I firmly believe that if you're going to have a board working with the government on issues like this, it should be scientists working on it. If you're going to have a board working towards educational papers or books, it shouldn't be politicians. It should be the educators. It should be the people who are most knowledgeable in those fields working to make the laws about those fields. It shouldn't be a politician.
Jeff Miller, political party Republican, spouse Vicki Miller, residence in Florida, alma mater University of Florida, occupation real estate broker, religion Methodist. Is it any surprise that a Methodist would not believe in climate change? Because Jesus would fix everything.
Right. Yeah, there's no reason to make any changes now because the Lord won't let us ruin it.
Right.
And that's why I don't like religion. One of the 1,000 reasons.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big one.
But you got to get to the funniest part of this whole guy's argument.
Yeah, it just gets better. So the interviewer says,
"Did you say gosh darn?"
Did I?
I think you did.
God damn it.
Anyway.
We accept your correction and we'll move on. So the interview says, but man-made, isn't that the question? And I said, yep, it sure is. And how severe is it, right? And so Representative Miller says, then why did the dinosaurs go extinct? Were there men that were causing, were there cars running around that at that point that were causing global warming? No, the climate has changed since the Earth was created. And I said, wow, CO2 does not cause asteroids, I'm pretty sure.
No. I've not heard any scientific proof that it's magnetic.
I believe that's why they call it extraterrestrial.
Oh, fuck.
Because of CO2. Yeah. And he goes on, the argument that, quote, climate change has always the climate has always changed has been thoroughly this is not him, this is just MSNBC. The argument that the climate has always changed has been thoroughly debunked by peer-reviewed research. While no scientist disputes that the climate has changed in the past, the issue is that heat-trapping greenhouse gases are forcing it to change faster and differently than it would without them. The argument is essentially a non sequitur.
What I want to add, and I don't know if
go ahead.
many people have thought about this before, but we should be in an ice age. If we're going on past climate history, this is about the right time that, as we know, there have been ice ages in the past.
Oh, yeah.
And they've continued on a historically predictable path. And we are right now, in a time where we should be descending into an ice age, but we're not.
Yeah, we're in a warm period.
Yeah.
What is the reason that we're not doing it? Is because of anthropogenic.
Anthropogenic.
Right.
Yeah. Well, how do you explain the extinction of the dinosaurs?
Tim's
then?
working on his second bottle of wine.
An asteroid fucked them up. He's got 1.5 down.
Oh man, that face.
He looks disappointed that we said that.
But now I'm serious.
We'll talk about agnostic and atheist next time.
But that is the whole reason that we're not in an ice age right now, is because human activities have increased the level of carbon dioxide in the air, preventing the Earth from naturally descending into an ice age.
And all that carbon dioxide makes its way to the poles, which then reflects all the sunlight back up and down and up and down and up and down.
Says
like a
science.
microwave.
You and 97% of scientists.
And who is the majority decide?
And then our ocean waters heat up, and the plankton dies, and the whales got nothing to eat, and the little guys got nothing to eat. The oceans
that
die
would
off,
be
and guess what? Then we fucking die.
Acidification of the oceans that is currently probably the biggest problem of climate change that most people talk about.
Here's what's interesting.
The ocean dies, we die.
Yeah, here's what's fascinating. Representative Miller's home state of Florida also happens to be one of the places in the United States that is most vulnerable to the negative impacts of climate change. The National Climate Assessment singled out Southeast Florida as the region particularly vulnerable to sea level rise.
Yeah,
Miller in August told a
Bye-bye,
group of...
Miami.
Yeah. Well, that's
bye-bye retirement homes.
Yeah. Miller in August told a group of voters that climate changed because of the way God formed the planet and not because of carbon emissions. He said, quote, "Our climate will continue to change because of the way God formed the earth."
Have any of you watched Years of Living Dangerously on Showtime?
No.
That is a new series in
Never
which
heard of it.
Years of Living Dangerously is a new series in which there is a director and producer really interested in discussing climate change, but really interested in discussing it in a more popular format in ways that will get everybody on board. So what's happened is, and if you can't tell, I am very much interested in, despite personal feelings, trying to, as it were, quote unquote, build bridges to ways we can better change things. And I have no problem labeling myself as. But this show, in particular to what we're talking about right now, focuses on the daughter of a Christian pastor in either Oklahoma or Kansas, one of those Midwest states, where climate change is hitting them hardest because they are dealing with droughts really bad. And she is the daughter of an evangelical pastor whom she has been able to convince, whether or not he believes it's humans that are causing the climate change, it is humans who were ordained by God to be the stewards of the planet.
Yeah.
That if the planet is changing, it doesn't matter what's causing it. It is our place to conserve it.
Right.
And that has been her message to her father, which has gotten her father to change his mind about climate change from being a climate skeptic to being somebody who thinks that we should do something about climate change. So whether or not we ultimately agree with what her message to her father is it a bad thing that we use that language to persuade the people of faith who maybe don't think that the people aren't capable ultimately of altering God's plan?
I would say
more-
yes. I would say yeah, actually, because believing something for bad reasons is still just as bad as believing it for bad reasons.
The alternate is they continue to believe
Or-
that we don't do anything and that we don't, and nothing gets done.
Yeah.
As opposed to with this daughter and her father, he now has taken the initiative to endorse things like clean energy
Yeah.
and whatnot, which would not have been done otherwise.
Well, I would say that's a false dichotomy because I think there's a third option that
No.
Sure.
The choice is clear.
We keep going
I'm
to the
sounding
path.
a little dogmatic here, but the choice is clear. We don't relate to them, and the actions that we want don't end up being fulfilled. It is okay to indulge somebody.
I'm just trying to count how many times I've been shut down tonight.
Really?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Stop, you're talking too much. What I'm trying to say. But no. And
I like all the hand gestures.
I know. Everyone's missing this
which
part. It's
nobody can
hilarious.
see, okay?
Yeah.
But I shall quit
Not
my
yet.
hands.
There's a whole lot of flair going on.
Right? But ultimately, and I've had to come to terms with this on my own, and obviously I've become okay with it. What is the end goal we're going for in this specific debate? Are we trying to make them stop believing in what they're going to believe? Because ultimately, that's not going to happen. Or are we at least trying to get some tangible action?
Sure, in the short term.
Action.
Exactly. But the short term is all we
Tangible
have. From what scientists say, the long term is gone.
I
If
think
we
we're
can-
looking for change.
I would say in response to this particular article, we're looking for trying to survive this. Well, thank you so much for your enlightened input, Tim. He's just admitted he has no idea what the original article was.
I'm trying to turn your mic up so I can pick you
I
up.
just
as you sit back.
reiterated it, so it's okay. Anyway, oh man,
Tim's waving, stop.
I hope they didn't pick that up on the mics. Well,
I was trying to.
I reiterated it anyway, so hopefully they got that. But
Y'all are assholes.
so
But really, I do want to leave everybody with that. Because we can all be in agreement that believing is detrimental to not only social cohesion, but to personal cohesion and personal belief.
You mean believing in a deity that's
Right.
going to solve our problems?
You're right. But are we comfortable with putting that aside for focusing on a goal that is bigger than ourselves and bigger than religion?
yes,
In the short term, sure.
Okay.
well, the Earth, the survival of humanity, that's bigger than all of that stuff.
Right.
I put that way above any of that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. So I would say short term, sure. Long term,
Sure.
believing in something for bad reasons is still
Oh, yeah.
still bad.
Let's win the long term before we start focusing on the end
Well, let's
goal.
win the short term
you know,
before we worry about
I
the
would
long
say,
term.
I would say, yeah, I would say we gotta baby steps.
And what I'm talking about is a small baby step towards not killing everybody.
Yeah, let's not kill everybody.
And I think with that being said, it's about time to wrap up tonight's
Yeah, that's
show.
a
It's
long
gone
episode.
kind of long. Longer than normal, not that it's anything wrong. If you're on a long road trip.
We didn't
Something
even-
wrong.
we
If
didn't
you're
even
at
get-
this point. Congratulations.
I know we didn't
That's
even
been
get to the
fun.
big story.
The one that I really wanted to talk about was
Let's do it real quick. We can do it.
okay,
Okay.
real quick.
No, this is really going to go on forever. if we start
Real
talking
quick.
about this.
I can turn your mic off.
John DeLynn and Kelly, I think is her name. Kelly something.
The
ordained women movement in the LDS Church being sent notice that they will be quite probably excommunicated from the LDS Church for apostasy. John DeLynn for calling attention to different problems that he sees along with many other LDS religious adherents about many of the LDS Church's teachings. And I'm sorry, I keep saying Kelly, I hope that's right. For apostasy, for trying to provide women the privilege, quote unquote, of priesthood ordination within the LDS Church. That now they are being threatened with excommunication from the LDS Church for speaking out about these controversial subjects.
Controversial in air quotes.
Well, how can they not be?
Right. I mean,
according to core Mormon doctrine, they can't hold the priesthood. So how can they be?
Well,
how can they expect to be accepted?
And I would say that they probably should have seen this coming.
Yeah, of course.
But at the same time, Kate Kelly. Thank you. Her last name is Kelly. Kate Kelly, who founded Ordained Women, who founded the Ordained Women movement. She and John DeLynn have both been basically served notice from the LDS Church that they will be excommunicated for apostasy.
Yeah.
Which I wonder if that's really the message the church wants to send to its members.
I think it is.
Go against us, we will kick you out.
Yep.
Well, sure. I mean, that's obviously the message that they want to send, because this didn't come from. I mean, this came from on high.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing that kills me about this, the thing that I find reprehensible about this action, is that me, as a baptized member of the LDS Church who was serving on the board for Atheists of Utah, was never served any such notice.
Yeah.
I was an active member of Atheists of Utah serving on its board and received no such message from on high from the religious leaders of the LDS Church. I mean, because I don't have a huge Mormon following.
Yeah, you weren't challenging them so directly.
But were you in the news?
I was challenging them directly, but I didn't have. But I wasn't viewed as an active member of the LDS Church speaking out against the LDS.
That's what I mean. You weren't a participating member saying, "Hey, we need to change this particular thing."
Were you in?
You were just saying, "Fuck all of it."
Right.
Yeah, he's yeah.
But to kick out people who want to maintain their church membership, their LDS Church membership, and want to see the LDS Church move in a more progressive way and be more accepting, be more enlightened, and to kick those people out for apostasy while still allowing me as an atheist who's speaking out about all of the LDS Church's wrongs and saying that it's all bullshit, to me seems really, really, I can't even think of the term, really...
Well, they're not going to kick you out because you're
other
than
than shitty,
own.
I can't think of the term.
Well,
because,
and I think that
these people still hold a core belief in the LDS Church, and they want to maintain their membership.
You don't. That's
and
the
they're
difference.
being kicked out because the LDS Church sees them as more of a threat.
Yeah, because they're trying to make changes from within.
They are more of a threat.
Yeah.
Compared to you,
Absolutely.
who is somebody
well,
on the outside looking
Sure, because
to make
I'm not dragging a ton of LDS members a ton of LDS members with me, right?
Right, you're just
where
dragging all
Kate
the
Kelly,
ex-Mormons
where
along
Kate
with you.
Kelly is bringing a lot of LDS women along with her.
Well, exactly.
Who say they want the right to hold the priesthood, and John DeLynn, who is bringing a lot of LDS Church members along with him, saying the church should be more progressive in a lot of their stances. Sure. I can see that the LDS Church would see them as more of a threat, but it seems pretty shitty that they would kick out members who want to see the church succeed and want to see it become a more progressive and more relevant institution for a wider base of people, that they would kick them out. Yeah, I mean, in my view, these people, John DeLynn and Kate Kelly are working to ensure, or would like to work to ensure, that the LDS Church remains relevant, that it grows its membership, and the LDS Church is kicking them out.
Yeah, well, subordination has been a major crime in all churches, but it's
So it'd
but it's
be
particularly in
insulated.
the Mormon Church since its conception.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
and I mean I sympathize with Kate, but at the same time I wonder what the hell she's thinking. She's
Well,
gonna
sure.
accomplish.
I think we
Because
both do.
Why
I mean, we
would
both,
she possibly want to maintain connections with the church that's obviously not? It's misogynistic.
Right.
It's obviously not going to. It's racist. It's not.
Well,
gonna,
she's
and
probably-
we can both see that, but she's hoping to be able to change it from within and say, I would like the church to be more inclusive, and ultimately,
yeah, but they think they get it
ultimately,
from
if the
Jesus,
church were to adopt their positions, they would become more relevant, and they would attract more members. And with the church kicking them out, they're basically cutting their own throat. They're cutting their nose off to spite their face.
That being said, though, do you or do you not support what she is doing and the purpose
I
or
support
the
it.
point that what she is saying?
I support what she's doing and saying in that
Right.
I think the LDS Church is a hugely misogynist organization.
Right.
That,
And
that
how-
subjugates women and treats them as lesser than
Right.
males who are members of the church.
And I think we agree that it takes small steps to make big change.
Sure.
This is a small step, and I don't think that you're not saying that what she's doing is monumentally important in the grand scheme of things. What I think you're saying is what the church's reaction to her is abhorrent.
Sure.
And my whole point is, with that being said, and I hate making the comparison, it seems like such an easy and
Reveal.
comparison to make is her and Thomas Paine in the founding of the country. He was instrumental in trying to lead an organization by writing pamphlets saying, we need to rise up against the people who say that this isn't real, this isn't true, to make a better life for ourselves. Again, I keep going back to
Well, and I'm torn on either side of this.
right,
Like
I am too.
I appreciate that the LDS Church, and I say appreciate.
But I
in
don't think you mean the
and I
LDS
say-
Church. You appreciate its particular members that are doing something bigger than themselves.
Well, I appreciate that. Sure, that those members
Right.
are doing something bigger themselves, and I appreciate that the LDS Church is kicking these people out because ultimately, then that will lead them to believing that the LDS Church is bullshit, which
Let
it
them
is.
see the real church for what it is.
Right.
I'm willing to go on record and say that I'm not in full support of what she's doing.
Well,
Well,
and neither.
Well,
am I.
that was the question that was asked. But here's why for me, right? Okay,
Would
so
you rather she be submissive to what the church has to say?
yeah, of course,
Definitely no.
yeah, of
No.
course. That's totally not bad. Come on, Tim.
That's
All right,
what it sounds like you're saying, though.
Okay, well, yeah, because you
No,
didn't hear
I-
my argument. So
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, so it sounds to me it's cherry picking, it's picking. Right, it's the same thing that's always gone on. But if you compare it to like Islam and Judaism and even some Christian sects, right? There's this little interesting bit about that God made everybody perfect, except this little bit around their penis. We need to cut that off, right? So they're deciding right there that God, and so this group is kind of doing the same thing. They're saying, we're no, hear it out, okay? So they're saying, yes, we accept Mormonism, we accept the prophet, we accept this is the word of God, we accept that Jesus is telling us all this stuff, except we think he's wrong on this bit about men being the only ones allowed to hold the priesthood. We accept all the other stuff, except you guys have got this part wrong, and we should. So, to me, the sensible thing is to take a step back and say, all right, I don't agree with this stuff, and you should really take a critical view of the whole fucking thing and say, is this really what, but they're not doing that. They're just saying this one part I don't like, so I'm going to fight against that.
Okay, but what I was saying earlier, that it takes small steps to make big change, this is their small step. It doesn't need them to be the whole religion is bad in order for what they're doing to be important. Because what they're doing...
Well, that's a different question.
Sure.
That is exactly the question that we're talking about, though, isn't it?
Do you support Kate Kelly was the question I heard, and I said
You
I'm
don't
gonna
support her is what I heard from you.
I'm going to be willing to go on record and say so. I'm not totally sure that I do.
Well, I think this is what we're struggling with. What we don't support is her overall wanting to excuse the religion in general for its misogyny.
I think what she is
Yeah,
looking for
yeah.
is inclusion. And I think everybody could agree that inclusion is a a good thing. Nobody should be separated and put to the outside just because of their gender.
I think that's a really great point, and I think that's a great angle. The way you phrased that made a lot of sense. I still think my point's relevant, but I think on a more subtle level, you're probably right.
Your
on
point
that. Yeah.
is very relevant, but how I'm more willing to fight for little causes that I can get and win instead of taking the potential chance of fighting
I don't
the
think they're
war
gonna win
on
this.
my own and not.
Yeah, I don't
getting
think
it.
I don't think they're going to win this one.
Okay.
Well, they certainly
Yeah.
won't win it. I mean, she's
Yeah.
going to be
No.
excommunicated.
Yeah,
I
don't
think
think
that
so.
The
she'll win.
question, though,
It's sad,
is
I mean.
how many other people she will take with her
Yeah.
out of the church because of
Yeah,
her
but-
excommunication.
yeah, but not.
And John Dehlin also. John Dehlin has a huge following.
You know, I'm
worldwide.
I wish
that's the Mormon Church is worldwide.
Well, the Mormon Expression podcast, on average, I believe, has 40,000 downloads.
Well, let me put it to you.
And this is from people who are,
Yeah.
LDS people, primarily,
if you're willing,
who
to,
agree with his stance on a lot of different things and a lot of the different questions that he asks about the LDS Church and a lot of the different problems that he sees within the LDS Church. So how many people will be dragged out of the LDS Church because the LDS Church has chosen to single him and Kate Kelly out as being apostates who are no longer worthy of holding church membership?
but would it not be better for you to support what they're doing because they're more in line with your beliefs and it ultimately
I support what they're doing in that they are subverting
right?
the religious establishment of the LDS
Not
faith.
only that, but what they're doing has a greater, not with more with Kelly, what she's doing, I think has a greater,
Impact.
yeah, it's about 80 years too late, but on the
There's no way it would have
At
happened
least
then.
the equality movement in that what she's asking for, even, well, I guess the Catholic Church being the exception, many churches across, well, okay, scratch that argument. What she's doing is asking essentially for the equal right to vote.
Right.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it would be
Yeah.
foolhardy for us to not support her, regardless of whether or not she's.
Well, no, and
disagree
like I
with.
say, I support her in that
Yeah.
she is
Yeah, so
subverting
do I.
the church.
Right.
She is subverting the rampant misogyny that is the LDS Church.
And we
So
agree.
in the end, we all agree.
Yeah, I think
We had to do a complete 360 circle around the block, go through the house, come through the backyard, jump over the fence, and fucking come back to finally figure out we fucking agree.
didn't
four
jump over
four
any fence.
four different times tonight we've had to do that, Ryan.
Oh,
No,
we're
I-
tired.
Get it, guys. Okay.
I agree. I just think she should be concerned more about the actual tenets of the religion
You know
rather
what?
than fighting for, I mean,
Once the
fuck whole
religion
thing.
gives
I mean,
in to her demands, then
they're not
the
they're not showing any signs of being willing to do that.
I will say on
They're
record,
locking her in a dungeon.
I will say on record now, give it a year, maybe 2 years, but they will grant women the priesthood.
It'll be much longer
Yeah.
than 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have my prediction. We
Okay.
all have our other predictions.
2 years from now, when I am proven right, I will be doing a happy.
We'll
dance.
see how it goes.
It's weird. Like me and Dan have pretty much agreed on everything.
Yeah, but
together
how
tonight.
can you be so sure of something you don't know?
Oh, we're still agnostic about that. But all right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you, Tim, for being here.
Well, thank you guys for
providing
having me here.
a semi-dissenting voice on some things.
You know what? Give me a little credit. Come on.
No, it's been great. I think it's been our best podcast yet.
Well, I couldn't agree more.
Of course. Hello, this is Matthew Frog here.
I am Dan, short-term president as Atheist of Utah.
Short-term.
Short-term Atheist of Utah president Ellis.
Short-term.
Departing.
And I'm the motherfucking big bird, Ryan Duffy.
And I'm Tim VanZeben.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you all
Thanks,
for
everybody.
listening.
Bye.
Bye.